pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where did TV go?
I think they moved it upstairs.
been going a long time. Professional. During the interview process, do you have any questions or comments from the audience? So they'll know.
I forgot.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Powell, I'll let him start out by introducing himself.
I appreciate y'all's time.
Good morning. Thank you for showing up.
I hope I didn't disturb y'all earlier. I drove in early this morning, so I kind of had to.
Long drive.
I came from Birmingham this morning, so stopped over and visited with my daughter and my grandkids. So, once again, thank you for allowing me to come in. My name is John Powell, born and raised in Pensacola, Florida, and I spent from 1983 until 2012 as a professional law enforcement officer. Started in Escambia County, where I met my wife. She was a dispatcher at first, and then later became a deputy with the sheriff's office. We got married while working at the sheriff's office, and then she's given me three children, one daughter and two boys, all are grown. After I finished my career in law enforcement with the state, I retired from the state of Florida. I was the director of the beverage department for the state. I got into some consulting business, law enforcement and public safety consulting. That took me overseas. Actually did some work with the Department of Defense. I went to Kandahar, Afghanistan for a year with the military effort over there. When I left Afghanistan, I went to Haiti and I served as a contingent commander in the country of Haiti. When I came back to the States, continued the consulting business and took a position in Glenn County, Georgia, originally as a community services director, kind of akin to an assistant county manager. Oversaw several departments, EMS, fire, EMA, Parks and Recreation, and Animal Control. And then Glenn County is one of the few counties in the state of Georgia that has a county police department. The county police chief submitted his resignation. The county manager asked me to step up because of my law enforcement background to serve on an interim basis as the police chief. And I took on that responsibility, then lost my mind and put in for it full time, and was hired as a full-time police chief in Glenn County. Left that position in January of 21, and my wife and I still are doing the consulting business. She's actually the CEO of it, and we run a security consulting business in the Panhandle of Florida, which is where we are residing currently.
Great. I'm going to jump into the questions. I'll be asking all the questions. And
Yes, sir.
There's going to be 12 questions, and then time for you to ask some. On average, if you could keep your responses to about 3.5 minutes.
I made some notes. Is that okay if I refer to these notes when we talk about the questions and stuff?
Yeah. Okay. Please describe your experience preparing and managing municipal budgets. How do you ensure fiscal responsibilities while meeting the community needs?
Okay, sir. I served, like I stated earlier, as a municipal police chief, started in 1999. Hartsville, South Carolina was the first police department that I worked at. Then I was recruited and I went to work in Wilson, North Carolina, about 2 hours north of Hartsville. And then later, I served in Dothan, Alabama as the police chief. So focusing in on municipalities, that's the municipal experience that I had. So it would be from 1999, excuse me, until 2009. Keeping in mind, I've got experience with state budgets and county budgets, but I'm focusing on the municipal budgets. It was my obligation to prepare the budget, based on the direction from the city manager and the city commission, the council, as far as what the priorities were, as far as being set by them, what we needed to achieve during that fiscal year. It also had to cover any kind of replacement, the replacement of vehicles, radio communications, weapons, stuff like that. So the two budgets, had a capital outlay budget, and then we had the operational budget that I was responsible for preparing. When I did my preparation for the budget, I called on the department heads, the people where the rubber met the road, and got input from them as far as what was needed, what would make the department more efficient, all the departments more efficient, and how we could best meet the needs of the community, but also addressing the direction of the city manager and the city council. I was held accountable for the expenditures on those budgets. And I was had my feet held to the fire by not overextending, going beyond what was allocated, to the department. Keeping in mind that there's always exceptions to the rule. If there's a natural or man-made emergency that comes up, work with the city manager and the council as far as raising the cap on the budget to try to fund the particular situations that came up, or if we had an event that took place, and I'm going to use like a vehicle pursuit where we had cars that got damaged that had to be replaced during that fiscal year that wasn't actually budgeted for. So, had to keep all that in mind as far as preparation. I'm proud to say that during the time as a municipal police chief, I never went over the budget. Always actually came in under budget. But I would like to give the credit to the department heads that was working with me, because they're the ones actually who managed it, either through investigations, patrol, operations, communication center to jail. They kept their thumb on it to make sure that we came in. We had a very clear and concise chain of command, but we also had open communication, and they knew that if there was an issue that came up, that we had the opportunity to basically staff it and flesh it out to kind of find out what the problems were. So summing it up, what I would say in preparing budgets, use your resources that you have that's available, the department heads, because they know what's going on, have the finger on the pulse. Ensure that you support them, but also make sure you follow the dictates of the elected body. And make sure that you're not cared, that you don't hesitate to make a decision when it's needed, but make sure that you also have transparency and that you can articulate why you're making the decision and you base it on fact.
Yeah. Clifton's a small community with limited resources. How would you identify opportunities to improve financial efficiency without compromising services?
Well, I'm going to say that, please don't take it the wrong way. I'm not making light of it. I've never been in a community where the government, the elected officials came up and said, you've got all the money in the world you need, just, take off. Everybody has issues, with finances. Any community that you face, they've got issues where they're trying to take care of infrastructure, they're trying to meet the growing needs of the community, and they're trying to predict what's going to take place. So everybody's got issues with finance. In a community like Clifton, small community, it's deep in history. You want to maintain that historical background with the community, but also you're being hit with the pressures of growth, with technology, trying to predict out what's going to take place. You have to, once again, work with the department heads, identify what the needs are, maintaining what the dictate of the elected body is. How are you going to move ahead? What is the anticipation from your constituents that you passed on to the manager to make sure that gets taken care of? So working with grants, working with the state representatives, county representatives to identify funding that's available. And when I say grant money, I'm talking about most recently the grant that y'all got for the water project, almost $16 million. And that's a tremendous amount of money to be put into the system that you don't have to worry about moving that to the constituents in the community for them to pay for it. I mean, they're paying for it to the state, to the taxes already, but you don't have to add additional taxation on them to cover, what has to be done, a repair for infrastructure. So identifying those opportunities that's there, working with the chamber to identify attracting new businesses to come into the community, once again, increasing the tax base, maximizing the operations as far as community events. You got a beautiful riverfront. How do you maximize those, the opportunities that's there, for that riverfront? Working with everybody in the county, other municipalities, and also the county officials to identify how everybody can come together and bring money into the county. Money comes into the county, money's coming into the city. That helps everybody.
You touched on this a little bit, but what strategies would you implement to attract and retain businesses in a rural community like Clifton?
Well, I looked on Indeed this morning before I came in. That's part of the notes I said I wanted to refer to. Indeed has listed 1,215 jobs in and around Clifton currently as of today. 1,215 jobs. Now, is that reality? Probably not. But when you key in Clifton on Indeed, that's what pops up. So we have to make sure that there's opportunity around here for employment, for the citizens that live here, for their children, for them to stay here. That's how your community grows, is making sure you have economic base, make sure you have businesses in the area. You don't want to have somebody that grew up in a nice community like Clifton, then they have to move away because they're trying to make a living, trying to take care of their family. So how do we increase the economic growth here? Once again, working with the chamber, working with your equals with the county as far as what are their plans as far as drawing people into the community, businesses into the community. We want to bring families into the community, increase the tax base. That's how we work on growth. If you can't have the businesses coming in, if you don't give them some type of incentive to come here, they're going to go to another community that is offering incentive. They'll bring their money there, bring their dollars there, and you'll miss out on that opportunity. So how do we identify that? Working with the state, working with the county, and also working with the the smaller communities in this area to find out what they're doing to attract businesses. You got a moneymaker. Nature gave it to you, the riverfront. You got a moneymaker. How do we maximize that?
How do you successfully collaborate with local chambers of commerce, tourism boards, and regional development agencies to promote economic development?
Just what we're doing right now. Lines of communication and being transparent. You don't mind if I walk a little bit, because open up lines of communication. Make sure that the dialogue is in place. You have to check personalities, not being offensive. You got to check personalities at the door and understand that you're working for the common good. It's not just one person, it's a group of people working together for the best for the community. And it's not just Clifton. What other municipalities are here in Wayne County? Y'all are all working together. And the city manager here has to work with the city managers at other locations or the representatives from maybe the smaller towns that maybe not represented by an administrator or manager. You got to be willing to go out and find out who the unofficial leader is and work with them to get ideas, to understand what's lacking, how improvement can take place as far as roads, infrastructure, bringing modern technology into the community. That's what has to be done. There's no way that the community this size could write a check to cover everything that has to be done without imposing a tremendous tax burden on the citizens. Just can't be done. So you have to work together with the county and the state and the other smaller municipalities, all working together for a common goal. That's what I would say that would have to be done.
Describe your experience with capital improvement planning. How do you prioritize infrastructure projects when funding is limited?
Okay. Understand, I have never, and I'm first to tell you, I've never served as a city manager. Never served as a city manager. My participation in capital improvement plans has been from the perspective of public safety or serving as a community services director for Wayne County. So I want to say that, I want to preference that before I start telling you what I see, my opinion. Okay, as public safety, what was important? I believe in the broken window syndrome. You got to make sure you don't have weed lots. You got to make sure you have vacant buildings. You got to make sure you got good street lighting. You got to make sure you got good roads. If you don't have that, the bad element starts coming in and taking advantage of the community. So as far as having good infrastructure, from a public safety perspective, and I think it would also apply to a city manager, you need to revitalize downtown. If you got vacant buildings, how do you attract people to come in, businesses to come in and utilize that floor space that you've got? How do you improve the outlook of the downtown community? Not saying it's bad, but how do you improve the outlook of downtown? Do you have burnout streetlights? Do you have, busted windows? Do you have rundown buildings? Is that something that maybe you can, move forward and try to improve them and make it look good? Street appeal, just like selling a house, make it look good. And, people will come in and want to rent that floor space and open up a business. Before you know it, you got a bustling downtown. So that's a way to, to move forward. Now, as community services director, I was involved in the issues as far as parks and recreation. That attracts families. If you don't have a good place for, families, young kids to come in and they got a good place to go, the burn off steam. We all have been parents at one time or another. We know the kids, if they don't have something to get their attention, they're going to find something to get their attention, if you know what I mean. So you've got, once again, nature gave you a beautiful place down here. And I know that the city's got parks. How do you market those? How do you make sure, invite other communities to come over and use the parks? And sometimes elected officials sit there and say, well, our citizens invested in that. They did. And it's the city's parks. It belongs to the city of Clifton. I got it. But if you're trying to grow the city, show everybody else what you got. And before you know it, you're taking citizens from other communities wanting to come live here because of the amenities that you have. So you market those. You put them out and let people know what's going on. As a city manager, I think it's the manager's responsibility to ensure roads in the community are good. That's working with the county, working with the state, and working with the city council. You want to make sure that the water system's good. Y'all are already doing that. I mean, I talked about the grant that the city's receiving just a few minutes ago, so y'all are ahead of the game right there. What kind of internet provider is in this area? Because we all know technology rules the day. Make sure that you have a good sound internet provider in this community, in the county, and ensure that, once again, that you're representing what amenities do you offer. How many communities do you know that you can name right now that has the waterfront like y'all got? There's not many. So, I mean, that's a tremendous asset right there. So I think when you start looking at those from a city manager position, if I was given the opportunity, I would be coming before y'all and asking all of us to kind of work together. How can we move ahead? What kind of support from your position can you give the manager to move ahead to market, those items, to put them out countywide, and before you know it, it goes regional wide, before you know it, then it goes statewide. And start attracting people to come in and start increasing the population base, in turn increases the financial base for the city.
Clifton, like many small towns, is facing aging infrastructure. What steps would you take to assess the needs and secure funding for upgrades or repairs?
Call on the resources of the department heads to identify, from their perspective, in their area, what needs to be replaced. What needs to be replaced in the future. What's an immediate need, what's an intermediate need, and what's something that can be down the road, for several years. Maximize the use of grants, whether it's state grant, a federal grant, or a local regional grant, to try to help pay for any kind of infrastructure that's got to be done. Once again, y'all have done a tremendous job getting a grant for the water system. $16 million is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And it's going to be able to get y'all a long way. What other grants are available to help out with the infrastructure? Just like with the police department, how's the police department fixed for radio communications, patrol vehicles, sidearms, training, because there's money available for them. Same thing with the fire department. You can actually get grant funding for a fire department for the rural area to hire personnel and staff. And it's aggregated. You pay so much, you're obligated for so much the first year, it increases the second year, third year it increases, fourth year, you have to pay the whole thing. But it gives you time to catch your breath so you can add those positions. And that applies to fire employees. So maximize the use of grant funding, lean on the department heads to identify what they see as their problem, produce a list, immediate need, intermediate, and then what can be done, over several years. And get that identified and start working towards that repairs made. Always keep in mind, no such thing as a perfect plan. Something's going to happen. You're going to have a main blowout, the water pipe's going to get damaged or something that you're going to have to go on and repair and fix it that wasn't on the list.
We're about halfway through the questions. Are there any follow-up questions by any of you at this point? Okay.
I made some notes on question 5. It was describe your experience with capital improvement planning.
Yes,
You just got finished with. I have had some citizens ask me about our Main Street.
Yes, sir.
And improving the looks of our Main Street, mostly downtown. And one citizen asked about grant funding for personal property improvements. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. I don't think there's any grants that's gonna give you on personal property.
Facade improvements on the building.
Downtown there, CBDG will give you grants for, improving the facade downtown.
That was just one thing
Yes,
that
sir.
I made a note of as you were going through
If it's a
your
grant,
answer for downtown improvements.
if it's a grant, it has to be owned by the public, city property, before that investment can be made. If it's any kind of personal property, nobody's gonna issue a grant for that, for repair work or anything.
And question 3, what strategies would you use to implement to attract and retain businesses in a rural community like Clifton? I just made a note of something that's been on my mind for the past few months about tax incentives for potential businesses to come to our city. We've seen larger cities, do multiple things to attract big businesses, like
100%.
Ford over to Jackson. Would you be willing to communicate with us as a commission on possibly, eliminating or giving folks that are interested in larger commercial properties the tax incentives, water rates, reduced water rates, sewer rates, gas, anything like that, so that we could use that as a tool to attract businesses?
Yes, sir.
Within reason, we have to make money.
Sure,
We need to
absolutely.
break even on this, but also we need to look at what other cities are doing to attract these businesses and see if we can compete with them on the incentives that they are giving.
Right, and 100%. That would be a package that would come forward once we identify, the needs of the city, and understanding that the elected officials have to okay that, have to vote on that, and have to make sure that that's okay. As a city manager, I can't implement anything without the support of the city council.
Yes, sir.
The term grants comes up over and over and over. So what experience do you personally have with acquiring grants? Were you directly involved in acquiring grants in your departmental work in the past?
Yes, sir, I was. I wrote grants to get canines and once again, I'm focusing on law enforcement.
Right.
But I wrote grants to get canines, grants for body armor, bulletproof vests for law enforcement personnel. I did a staffer grant, which I just mentioned about getting personnel. When I was in Hartsville, South Carolina, we increased staffing. It was called COPS grants for law enforcement personnel and also fire, because for a short period of time I oversaw the police department and the fire department. And also we were able to get law enforcement vehicles and actually bought a fire truck for Hartsville, South Carolina on the grant. The grants were forgiven if you could show that the demand, for the services, the volume of calls and stuff like that, you were able to come back after a couple of years and articulate to DOJ that you needed the staff and it was keeping crime stats low. As long as you could produce that, they would forgive the grants, much like what the water grant is that y'all, there was a portion that was forgiven on that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 7. How do you see parks and open space contributing to Clifton's quality of life and economic development?
Well, I mentioned that earlier. Parks and recreation, in order to attract growing families, and also, to address the needs of the senior community, which we all know nationally, that's the fastest growing population right now across the country. Parks and recreation is extremely important. If you can market it, like I was saying earlier, the city's got parks. If you can market, include the waterfront, which I know y'all market that, but also, kind of build a package at Parks and Recreation, build a package and do it and advertise it regionally, the statewide, get people's attention. I think it's very helpful to attract families. Businesses look at that, for their employees, what's available for the employees. You have a local community college here already for education. And then if you have a great Parks and Recreation facilities, that are in place, businesses tend to locate the places where they can offer that to their employees, to attract the employees in order to get them to go there or to join the company that's coming in. So I support it 100%. I think it's probably one of the cornerstones for building a strong economic base for the community. To be honest with you, to get people to come in, whether it be visitors or whether it be permanent residents.
What experience do you have in planning or expanding recreational spaces in small communities? And how do you engage the public in this process?
Going back to when I was in Glenn County, I oversaw Parks and Recreation. Now, I had a director and assistant director underneath that activity. We identified, based on population, where the population hotspots were in the community, to identify where we're going to either increase or add new parks. And then we utilized community forums, both online and also in person, so we could answer questions. Because the public has a right to know if you're spending their money, and by having coming out and meeting with the public, sitting down with the public, and giving them an opportunity to ask you questions face to face, you can't replace that. So I believe in community forums. I believe in using online surveys to identify issues that the public wants to see, and I also believe in making the meetings available to the public that's convenient for them, not just convenient for the people who's holding the meetings. In other words, we don't want to hold a meeting at 12 o'clock noon when everybody's working. We need to hold it after hours when everybody's off, or most everybody's off, where they can come to the meeting and sit down and ask questions if that's what they want. Now, if a survey shows that they want to have a meeting, at the noon hour for the other half that can't make it, then you have another meeting. You hold it at noon and let them come out and attend it and ask questions. But having that open dialogue is extremely important between the elected body, the people representing the elected body, and the community that's being served.
Right, we're at number 9 now. What is your approach to building a strong, motivated municipal team, especially in a smaller department with cross-functional roles?
I think every person who works with the city is a recruiter for the city and represents the city. Nobody that is employed by the city it should be ignored. Everybody's opinion is valued, and everybody brings something to the table. And I think once you make that known to them, you actually will get a benefit, because if you have somebody out, just say that somebody out working on the street, and they see a young man that maybe not employed. It looks like he's looking for work. If that employee tries to recruit him, every person should be a recruiter. Everybody ought to be selling the city. Have you seen our parks? Have you went down to the city to see about getting a job? Do you know the benefits that you get for working with the city? Everybody needs to be recruited. And then as you are moving forward with preparation for activity in the city, expenditures, you call on your department heads to bring their talent to the table. Like we were talking about a few minutes ago, like the water department. I can tell you a little bit, but I'm not an expert on the water department. But we got people who are. And we need to value their opinions. We need to have them bring their skills and expertise to the table to give guidance, to tell us how we need to move forward. Same thing with law enforcement. I can sit down and tell you what I know about law enforcement, but I've never worked law enforcement in Tennessee. You've got an expert that's worked law enforcement in Tennessee. That's your police chief. You call on their skills, their skill set. Get information. I met your chief a few minutes ago. He was coming in the lot. So use your expertise that's on the job. And I'll tell you, people say, well, let's get a consultant and bring him in. You got consultants working for you. You got consultants working for you. You don't need to spend that money. If you'll give them an opportunity to come in, you will be amazed at what they'll tell you. And you'll be amazed at how much money they'll save you just by simply sitting down and listening to them.
Right. How have you handled conflicts or morale issues among staff? And what leadership style do you bring to the employee relations?
I kind of go counter to what a lot of people, the rule of thought is, I don't think there's any one cut in the stone leadership style. You can't have that because every day is a fluid situation. You never know what's going to happen. You know, you could walk in and you may have an emergency event occurring on the riverfront, and you've got to get down and decisions have to be made. You don't have time to break down into committees and you don't start asking people for opinions and stuff. You got to start dictating, using what you know to try to get, you know, make things happen, or calling on people and have them do it, you know, to make sure that everything moves forward and you save lives and you prevent further damage from taking place. Now, regularly, I like to get input from everybody that I'm working with. And if you notice, I don't say working for me, because we're all working together. You know, my bosses, the people here work that live in the city. And then I have to, you know, y'all dictate to me what y'all want to see done. So I'm working with the other folks. And in order to facilitate things taking place, I've got to be willing to shoulder the blame if something goes south. You know, how's that old saying? You know, it's when everything goes great, it's a crowded room. But when it goes south, there's only one person in there. So you got to be willing to take the blame and shoulder the responsibility. And I'll tell you that in my career, I have never had to terminate anybody. Never terminate anybody. The employee fires themselves. If they decide they're not going to come to work, or they decide they're not going to do the job, that's on them. That ain't on me. And if, you know, I'll bring it to their attention. If they don't correct their behavior, then, you know, they've kind of set the course on what's going to take place. So I've never fired anybody. Now, I'll help them be successful someplace else. But if they're not doing their job here and the community's not getting their money's worth, you're not going to have a dead weight. I mean, I'll tell you that up front. I'm not going to have a dead weight. As far as motivating them, I'm not going to ask anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. You know, and I'll tell you up front. I'll tell the citizens that are here, and I'll tell the elected body. I wish I was a perfect person, but I've stubbed my toe more times than I care to count. But it makes you a better person when you do that. You're not judged by how many times you get knocked down. You're judged by how many times you get up. And I would tell the employees that we're going to make mistakes. I don't penalize somebody for doing their best job and making a decision, trying to get something motivated, trying to get it moving ahead. I'll criticize them for sitting around not trying to fix the problem. So, working together, letting them see that I'll roll my sleeves up and I'll do the work with them. I'm not scared to dig a ditch. I don't like doing it, but I'm not scared to dig a ditch. When I grew up, my dad taught me how to dig a ditch. If we got to do that, that's what we do. So, everybody working together and being honest and having open dialogue. If I'm honored and get the position, they're gonna know day one where I stand. I mean, and I'm not gonna come in and just start making changes arbitrarily. It's gonna be a time for me to get educated. I'm gonna learn from the people that's here, and any changes that are affected will take place gradually, and there'll be a reason behind it, and you will be notified that, hey, we're gonna try this and see if it works. And this is what the employees are telling me, and this is why we're going in this direction. So it's not going to be anybody getting blindsided.
We have time for a couple follow-up questions, since we're sort of getting past the staffing and the managing of employees. So, any follow-ups? Not seeing any? Okay. We're on number 11. Clifton's a tight-knit community with unique local values. How would you balance professional administration with a community-driven decision-making?
Just like we're doing right now. Being transparent, making sure that the community understands, what my background is, where I come from, what am I basing my decisions on. Too many times, rumors get started. When decisions have to be made, rumors kind of get out of hand. Once rumors out, you can't call it back. It's going to take a life of its own. We're seeing that right now on the national level. And make sure that the community is informed as well as they can be. Keep in mind that there are certain personnel issues that can't be discussed, and everybody appreciates that. Because that's just it's rules. You can't put everything out in the street. But make sure that they understand that decisions are being made based on fact, not rumor, and that hopefully, if I'm here for a bit, they'll get to know me and get to know my reputation, and they will understand that any decisions I'm making have been fleshed out with the elected officials, and it's being made for the best, for the best of the city as a whole, not just one person. I don't bring personality to work. I don't bring I don't bring a personality in and say, okay, I'm mad at you, or I don't like you because the way you dress, or something like that. That's not the way you do business. I try to get to know the people that I'm working with, and everybody, has got something they bring to the table. Everybody's got a history. Everybody's got family. I try to learn that and try to get to know them. And I'll tell you, if you do a background on me, you'll find that I haven't made everybody happy because I've had to make some tough decisions in my career. But I don't hide from those decisions that I've made. And those decisions were based on fact. Not rumor or not speculation. They were based on fact. And I try to do the best I can. I'll make mistakes. But hopefully they won't be bad. And we can, if there's a mistake made, I'm mad enough to stand and say that I made a mistake, and we'll try to get it corrected.
Right. Tell us about a time you led a city or department through a major change. What did you learn, and how would you apply that to Clifton?
Okay, now keep it in mind, never served as a city manager. Okay. Now I've led, when I worked with the Department of Beverage in the state of Florida, I was the director. We did a major change. The state of Florida, maybe like Tennessee, when you had to renew your business license, you had to actually go into an office, stand in line, submit your paperwork, wait for it to get processed. We received a lot of feedback from the state, from the businesses in the state. They were upset about that. There had to be a more efficient way to do it. Well, there was. The state of Florida, like many states, behind on technology. But we could put that business license application process online and have where the business owner could, from their office, could go in and update their application. They could actually pay their fee and get a license for it. We utilized forfeiture money that we had taken in from the fines and forfeitures from beverage and tobacco for businesses that had violated the law. We reinvested that money back into that, building the system, online system for businesses to make application. The hard part was getting everybody trained on it, getting everybody to understand you can go online. You don't have to go down there and stand in line. You can go online and do it. So it took us a bit to get past that hump. However, I will tell you that it's been improved now. It's been several years since we implemented it, but we implemented it. We got an award, Weber CV award, Malcolm Baldwin's award from the state of Florida, from the governor's office, for utilizing technology, but also it didn't cost anything because we reinvested fines and forfeitures that the state had that was brought in from people breaking the rules and regulations. And now when you go in and do your licensing online, you'll find out in 15 or 20 minutes if you're deficient when you get a new license, once you put the application in. And that's a whole lot better than waiting 60 or 90 days for a license to come in the mail, especially when you're trying to make a living. You don't have to shut your doors because you don't have your new license. You got it. And it eliminates excuses for businesses to say, well, I have to wait on the license. No, you're not. You can go online and put it in and get it right back. So it worked out pretty good, but we had to do a lot of training on it.
How would you apply what you learned in those processes to the city of Clifton?
Look for efficiencies. Try to utilize technology if it's available. Once again, it costs money, but there's grant funding available to upgrade governmental operational systems. And if it brings efficiencies to the community, I think it's something that ought to be implemented. We have the ability to prevent citizens from having to come out and stand in line to try to get a license or to try to pay a bill or to try to pay a fine or anything. We have the ability to do that. If we're not doing it, we ought to be utilizing that to make it more easy. That's probably not proper language, but make it easier on the citizen to get their daily obligations completed, because they have a life too. Their life ain't standing down here in City Hall. Their life is taking care of their family, taking care of their personal business. And if we can do that, then that's what we need to do.
All right. Any follow-up questions?
One, since we're on the subject of business license and, leading departments through major change, I think a big discussion for this commission and City Hall in the coming months will be zoning. It's been brought up at the last several city meetings about zoning throughout our city. As of right now, we don't have any property standoffs or zoning, you might say.
Okay.
We have a person on the commission that owns a small business right next door to his house. Something that's been going through my head the last couple of months is how we apply zoning, if we do use zoning at all, but how do we balance that with entrepreneurs within the community who have no choice but to follow up on their dream maybe in their side yard.
Sure.
We don't want to stifle an idea within our community, because there's been a lot of ideas that have launched right here in Wayne County, and it's done very well. We've got some talented people. We don't want to create a challenge for them and their idea or their potential livelihood with this zoning. How would you address, as we move forward, with applying some type of constraints within our community so neighbors don't interfere with neighbors and that sort of thing? How would you suggest that we would move forward with zoning to still allow these young people, old people with these ideas to follow up on their dreams, but create some bit of safety for the neighbor or some solace for the neighbor?
Well, first of all, initially I would say without doing research with the state, first thing I would say is you're not going to pass a retroactive law. So, utilizing the gentleman that you said has a city, that zoning is not going to affect him. Now, if the property changes hands, the new zoning will take effect then.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be, it's not going to be retroactive. Then I would say that the commission is tasked with approving whatever zoning ordinances are going to be put before you. As long as they meet the state mandate, you can make changes accordingly to your specific jurisdiction, as long as it meets that framework of the state mandate. If you have good community meetings, you have input from the community, they're allowed to tell you what they would like to see, as far as making things nicer or putting restrictions on certain, I use medical marijuana. Some communities don't want medical marijuana next door in the downtown city. They don't mind it because it's authorized with the state. They don't mind it being out away from downtown, but they don't want it in the core area. I'm using that as an example. If you decide that's what you want to do, same thing with alcohol. You decide you don't want any alcohol downtown, but you don't mind it on the periphery of downtown, then that's how you write your ordinance. You do a business overlay district, and you say, okay, this is on your mapping. This is the district where you can have, the medical marijuana or the alcohol beverages. There's the area. Not going to affect anybody who's already in business, but any new businesses come in, you have to be in this particular area. But the input with the community to the council, to the commission, is extremely important, because that way you get a flavor of what they're asking for, what they want to have in place. Did that answer your question?
Well, it seems like it would determine the direction of the community in the future.
Yes.
What you allow folks to do in their side yard, or even on a piece of commercial property. When you mentioned the CBD things, medical marijuana, liquor stores, that sort of thing. Even though it's a commercial piece of property here in the Bible Belt, I'm 45 years old. And honestly, I never thought I would see it in the city of Clifton, a liquor store.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. We're a strong Christian-based town, and it goes against most people's religion.
Yes, sir.
Even though they participate in it every Friday afternoon. The quick answer is no, we don't want that there. So.
But if you do that business,
It's actually been pretty successful for the guy out here at the marathon. He's part of a gas station, his liquor store is.
Right.
I'm sure it's bringing in tax dollars left and right for our community.
but if you wanted to, like you're saying,
John, we need to jump on
okay,
to the next one here. You have about 4 minutes to ask us, or ask them, any questions that you have for them.
okay. Once again, I want to tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity. I know it's tough on y'all, you know, to use your day, you got things you need to do, to sit here and listen to somebody speak, but I do appreciate it. I did some reading, and I tell you, the thing I'm interested in is about stability. You know, coming into a position, how stable would the position be? And I'm not trying to pin your ears back. I'm just saying, obviously, if you're not doing your job, it's not going to be stable. But if you're doing your job, is there stability in place? And then, is there support for continued development, educational development, for somebody who takes on this position?
Yes, I think education's key.
Yes, sir.
True. And as far as the job stability, I mean, this board can change from year to year.
Yes, sir.
I'd say as long as you're doing your job and being transparent, I think you'll be fine.
It's a given fact that there's an election every 2 years.
Yes, sir.
The board hasn't changed much. I'm the newest commissioner. I've been here 8 months now. So our charter reads that I believe a 4/5 majority can remove a city manager within the first year, and a simple majority can remove the manager after a year. Am I correct on that?
I think so.
That's as true a statement as I can make on that end of the stability.
Yes, sir.
As far as education, yeah, I mean, more education that we can help you with and help ourselves with, I feel very open to that. It's it's a two-lane street for sure.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate that. Once again, I don't really have any more questions.
Just to follow up on that a little bit, is that the state of Tennessee, through my organization, offers a lot of training that's free to all employees. So whoever takes this position, I hope will take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Should we, at the end of each survey, talk about compensation?
Yeah, I was going to ask the last question, and it's just, you have a couple minutes to answer this. If you were offered this position, what would your salary demands be? And there was one more. Well, I guess answer that one.
Location.
And salary and benefit.
And location, yeah.
Right.
That,
Relocation, okay.
Yeah.
I don't recall if I saw a advertised pay range on the advertisement. And I don't know what y'all have paid in the past. I mean, I would have to.
it's public knowledge.
Now, yeah, in all honesty, I mean, I'd have to go back and look and see what y'all have paid in the past. I would be the first state. I've never been a city manager. I've said it a couple of times, so I have to take that into consideration before I make any kind of demands, certainly. And then, not trying to dodge the crowd, I simply don't know what y'all have paid in the past. I don't recall seeing it.
Our, we start somewhere, around 80s, mid-80s.
Well,
It goes up. I mean,
we were at.
yeah, we were at like 109.
I got you. Having said that, that pay range in that area, I mean, certainly we can discuss it further if opportunity presents itself, but I mean, I'm satisfied with that pay range. And I would welcome any assistance with relocation, if we get to that point.
That's a question that we will probably have for about every commissioners, and obviously the compensation, relocation,
Sure.
and benefits package.
Right. And I would think it's just on the benefits, that y'all answered one as far as the educational, the benefit, help with training. And I would say, something that would support cell phone usage, because, obviously you're going to be on call 24/7. You got to have that, and technology, the computer, whether it be a laptop or a PC in the office, whatever, I hope I'm just pulling stuff off the top of my head, to be honest with you. Y'all offer a vehicle allowance for the city manager, or some type of compensation for the use of his vehicle when he's working. And then, the insurance and vacation and stuff like that.
When you say relocation, and you mentioned your kids are grown,
Correct.
it's you and your wife,
Correct.
correct? So As far as relocation goes, you didn't need to expand on
Go,
any further.
go. It's just my wife and me and a few dogs.
Yeah. I was just
I'm driving to
honest.
Florida every day to work, right?
No, I wouldn't want to have to drive to Florida every day.
Okay, that's 45 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And
Good.
Thank you all. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Appreciate it. Hope I'm not violating anything. It's nice meeting you.
Shelley, nice to meet you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, I moved like completely away. I'll Sam. I don't know if I said that earlier. Okay, it's nice to meet you. Have safe travels.
Sam is the assistant.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of holding my fort together. So,
Bless you.
well, it's very nice meeting you.
Nice meeting y'all. Thank y'all so much.
You helped him out.
1840.
All right.
Take care.
Here. Well, I don't know. Oh, right there.
Okay. And I need Sam.
Mr. Marsh, I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't think I heard the answer to this or anybody asked it before, but we were given this list of questions. Were each of the candidates given that list of questions as well?
Nope.
Okay.
They were not given it. To my knowledge, nobody's been given the questions.
I don't think so.
I didn't see him today.
I didn't see.
You what?
I didn't see him today.
Right.
She's not done.
Okay. I'll wait till she finishes. I'll start tabulating these.
Can I go play? Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Squeeze through
No,
here.
no, no, you're good. I will.
I didn't keep your time. Saw you hadn't
Oh,
finished yet.
yeah.
No problem. I have to go through all these first.
We taking 5 minutes or something?
Till 10 o'clock is the next one.
Hey there.
I'm gonna give you these for to Powell.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then I can send, I didn't send any letters to anybody that did interview. You
Okay.
guys will wait till after this.
Okay, okay,
But
perfect.
once, then I can send those and I can notify.
Okay, perfect, awesome.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I guess I'll go out there. Thanks, sir.
Keep that in between the interviews, okay, without the-
Yeah, it's just if anything's discussed, that has to be. So. This is such a tough. I feel like this has gotten tighter. I think so.
I can check and see.
Actually, Duren with an
Duren,
E.
Duren, Duren.
I noticed that on there.
Sorry.
but Yeah.
Hi.
Nice to see you. I don't
Nice to
think
meet
we've
you.
met.
Hello, go ahead, Tommy.
My name's
Good to see you. Yeah.
If you could stand right up there and place your purse in the chair.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Some of you know me and some of you don't. My name is Christine Duren. I've been a resident of Wayne County for over 20 years. I was the local dietitian at Wayne Medical Center and Wayne Care Nursing Rehab for several years. And I've been working the last 15 or so, basically full-time, at Duren Pharmacy in Waynesboro. We also have locations at Hall Medical Clinic, an apothecary at Homewall, and Linden's store, which is in Perry. What I do, well, and some of you have been customers too with Duren Sporting Goods. We've done it also. So what I basically have is management experience for running multiple businesses under the same roof and under different roofs. I have experience working in teams as healthcare. I have experience working with customers, the public, understanding how to deal with people, problems, because they always arise in any business. And what I think I bring to the table is the ability to talk to you, to hear you, to understand you, and to do my best to work with you within the parameters that I'm allowed.
All right, we're going to jump right into the questions now. There's 12 questions, and then there's an opportunity for you at the end to ask questions of the group.
Okay.
So if you could keep your answers to about 3.5 minutes each, that'd be great. Number 1 is describe your experience preparing and managing municipal budgets. How do you ensure fiscal responsibility while meeting community needs?
Okay, I've not actually worked in municipal budgets, but I've worked in budgets when it has come to working in healthcare. Of course, we've had to run budgets through that. Projects that we've done. I worked with a cystic fibrosis clinic in Memphis, Tennessee, and we had to budget and work through our different projects that we did with it in order to do some trips, to get some continuing education, in order to maximize what we could through insurance and reimbursement, so that we would be able to provide as many services as we could. At that point in time, it was doctors, nurses, social work, and the dietitian in that healthcare team. Of course, everybody knows that healthcare has lots to work with when it comes to budgeting and, of course, trying to make all of our needs meet and be able to stretch our dollar and do the best that we can with it. So for years, I've worked in the pharmacy business, that side of healthcare with it, and I am the bookkeeper, HR manager to most of the stores. What I do with that is I'm familiar with bookkeeping, reading financial reports, cash flow. I'm familiar with liabilities and assets. I'm also very familiar with how, when we've had decreases in our reimbursement, when we have had clawbacks, when we've had to deal with PBMs and DRIs, on how to stretch things throughout the different businesses so that we can share resources. That way we can still all have the same thing, but possibly we have, HR, for an example, towards that. With my payroll software, I have one store that we purchase the HR software through, but then I use it, change it as I need so that it fits each individual business and distribute it through that direction with it that way. That way we're only paying for one instead of paying for one for each of the different businesses with it there. So that's an example of cost savings then towards it.
Clifton's a small city with limited resources. How would you identify opportunities to improve financial efficiency without compromising services?
Well, I'm a small town girl raised from the beginning to end. I'm originally from Culleoka, Tennessee, and I lived in between Culleoka and Linville, so small town is basically all I've ever known. When I first moved to Waynesboro, everybody asked me what it was like living in a small town, and I said, actually, Waynesboro has more than what I grew up with. So Clifton's very similar in direction as to what I was used to, what I've grown up with and spent my formative years with. When it comes to stretching budgets and making plans, one of the things that I think is very important is finding out what programs are available and what grants are available. I think that's the only way that you can really sustain working with things like that. Working with our Wayne County shooting sports through the 4-H, I have grant written with the NRA for both the facility and for our team in order to try to get targets and ammunition for the kids to help reduce the cost for them, because of course we all know that in Wayne County in general, income is sometimes an issue, and being able to afford to do things takes stretching, takes finding ways to get some money in on it. And funds through those are great ways to do. I've also worked with the local law enforcement on the drug take-back program, which was also a grant,
and we did the grant also through the drugstores, so that 2 of our locations actually had the boxes for drop-offs at that point in time too. That helped us to serve the community with a need, and of course be able to get those in and have them incinerated instead of them going into the landfills and our public water systems and so forth with it.
Number 3, what strategies would you implement to attract and retain businesses in a rural community like Clifton?
Well, I think Clifton is actually doing a wonderful job right now. Being part of the 652 and U program, the Main Street programs, I think are fabulous with it there. I'm really excited about the 652 and U because I really think that trying to advertise, trying to get more access to Ross Creek Golf Course, over to the park and the wonderful splash pad are going to be, big things with it. Also getting a better access possibly to actual Main Street because it's such a beautiful area and the local businesses work so hard with making it historic, but yet also trying to bring things in and do it towards it. So if we could get more traffic onto actual Main Street too, I think that would help the local businesses that we have and could also possibly drive more business in that direction. Tourism is definitely what Clifton has to offer. It's historic, it's beautiful, it's the small town feel, and we're right here on the river.
How have you successfully collaborated with local chambers of commerce, tourism boards, or regional development agencies to promote economic growth?
Of course, we work with the Chamber of Commerce as the drugstore in Waynesboro. So I'm familiar with doing different activities and being involved with Christine Chapman on that. But also when you look at collaborating with things too, I guess my experience is more in collaborating with Chamber for advertising the different functions that we do, the Christmas trees, doing the store where we would do different cards and come through for like Christmas time in order to promote people for Small Business Saturday and so forth with it. I've collaborated also with our local law enforcement in Waynesboro, not just with the drug take-back program, but I'm a handgun carry permit instructor, and so I volunteered my time to work with Jeremy Staggs, who is the head teacher on that, and we've taught those for years up until the time that COVID basically cut that out for us. And of course, he still has plans at some point in time to bring that back again too. I also collaborate with them and your local police departments too on getting ammunition and things that they need for training. So we've done that.
Describe your experience with capital improvement planning and how do you prioritize infrastructure projects when funding's limited?
Well, capital improvement infrastructure, everything's going to wear out at some point in time. I think you have to go into it looking at assessing what's going to be the most important at the time. What is urgent? What do you have to fix? You don't have a choice on that. How do we take and find the funds and budget and implement getting that fixed done then? Secondly, I think you have to look at what is going to be a safety issue, because safety is always going to be a concern. If it's a safety issue, then it's definitely a priority and it needs to be looked at, it needs to be worked on. We need to find the funds, a way to work it in order to be able to fix that. The last thing towards it is you want to look at your community. You want to see what people in your community want. You want to listen to them. Clifton already has a lot of community-driven projects going. So what you want to be able to do at that point in time is prioritize what your community is looking for.
Clifton, like many small towns, is facing aging infrastructure. What steps would you take to assess those needs and secure funding for upgrades or repairs?
Well, of course, there are professionals that come in and do a lot of the assessments. You're going to be driven by state policies and laws on a lot of those type of things too towards it. So those are going to be ones that you definitely have to work with and do towards that. What I would do is work with those people in order to find out what we needed to do, basically to go back to the previous question and assess what priority each thing would be at towards it. And then again, at the same point in time, when we have things that the community brings to you, and people love to tell you what it is that's important to them and what they're, interested in. And so if you just stop and listen, you'll find out a lot of ideas from members of the community. That's how I support things at my business also is I tell everybody, even the new hires when they come in the door, look at your job, look at what's going on with it, look at the people that you're working with. If you see something that you think we could change that would benefit the business, come to me and let me know about it. It may have been something we've tried before and it failed, but it also might be something that's new. You're fresh eyes, you're coming in, you're looking at it differently than the rest of us who've been here working the business for a while and gotten into the routine. So I think that's very important.
All right, we're past question 6 now. Are there any follow-up questions for the questions we've asked?
Do you think all grants are good grants?
Not everything of anything is always going to be good. I do think that there are frequently ones that are going to be beneficial, but you have to look at what is tied into the grant that you have to be able to do, how long you have to go with the grant, how long you have to use the funds on the grants. So those type of things do need to be looked into on grants.
Any other questions? Okay, number 7. How do you see parks and open spaces contributing to Clifton's quality of life and economic development?
That is Clifton's quality of life and economic development. Wayne County in general is definitely a tourist-driven. And Clifton, I think, has some of the best resources in the county, so you can definitely max those. Being on the river, you have the marinas. We already have the park where we have the splash park. We have an opportunity there to put people up where they could go out, pull up a boat, go out and at some point in time do picnics, enjoy those things there too. Like I said earlier, I think if we could get access also in that direction towards where you have people that could get onto Main Street and be able to enjoy the historic trail of it, see the beauty of the buildings, but also to be able to participate in different activities, go to the different shops, and I think that could even drive us some more business in for businesses if you had that and towards it there. I also think that the river does have a time period on it that it's going to be the most popular towards it. So looking for other activities and things that are going to be more off-season is definitely something that you could draw people in and do with towards that in order to keep things up and going even in the slower time periods. All businesses have slower time periods, but you've got to always look and see what you can do to draw people in and to get people there and excited about what you do have.
What experience do you have in planning or expanding recreational spaces in small communities, and how do you engage the public in the process?
The closest thing I have to actual recreation facilities is that we did build and start the Wayne County Shooting Sports Complex, which is a skeet and track range with some sporting plays. We began that actually due to a need in Wayne County. 4-H was doing the shooting sports, and we were not able to compete because we were literally using a track machine in a backyard that was portable, and we set up each time we were there. So we worked on getting loans, we worked on getting people involved where they would volunteer their time, volunteer materials, do various different things for us in order to be able to get that program up and running. And we built a two-field track range so that our kids would be able to actually go out to the 4-H competitions, go out to the AIM competitions, and be able to have actually stood on real concrete posts, who actually know how to do going through the line and so forth with it. So that's how I have done in it, and I'm a member of the board, and I'm the secretary to that, and James Ramsey is our treasurer on it, but I do find myself helping him out quite a bit on just the day-to-day financials on that. Outside of recreation, we have started up 3 businesses. So we've started the clinic pharmacy, we've started the Linden Pharmacy in 2008, and we started the apothecary over in Hillwall. So I'm familiar with, you know, everything that is involved in trying to get all of our permits that we needed, all of our certifications, contracts that we've done towards it, licenses, everything in towards it. Plus, I have physically stood there and inputted every single piece of inventory into the store if I needed to. I have mopped the floors, I have changed the toilet paper. It's whatever needs to be done in order to get those things up and going. That's what it is. And to maintain also with it there. I have been known to be out, you know, sweeping, wiping down windows, doing anything that needs to be done in that, as well as communicating with the different pharmacists in charge about, you know, their spending, their needs of what they need for their pharmacies in order to be able to make it better, and what funds we do have available for them to be able to do upgrades and upkeep with it.
What is your approach to building a strong, motivated municipal team, especially in the smaller departments with cross-functional roles?
I feel like that is something I could definitely speak to. Of course, having the 4 different stores, all of them are small. The largest having 18 employees at it, the smallest having 2. So when it comes to management style, I find myself to be very direct. I'm not going to be hostile. I'm not going to be in any way that is going to be anything other than these are the facts, this is how I expect things to be done. These are your responsibilities, this is your accountability, and this is what I'm looking for. Now, at the same point in time, I'll say this. I am just as willing at that point in time if somebody is struggling, if somebody's, you know, we're extra busy, if we're short-staffed. I will step out of any role that I am in and into any role that I need to in order to help out and do. I do believe in knowing and understanding at least the basics of most every job that is under you. And I think knowing even the ones that are above you to a point with it there. Now, I cannot do physically everything. You know, even a drugstore, I'm not a pharmacist, I'm not able to do those type of things. But if they need somebody to pour pills into the Icon machine or refill Sam or I can do that. I can wait on any customer, I can do the drive-through, I can find out the information that I need for you for anything in those directions. And I feel like that's something that I would bring to this. Communication, I think, is one of the biggest things when it comes to working with a small group and especially in a small town. We all know each other. We're all somehow related to each other when you come down to it and all. So when you hire someone, you're hiring the entire family. And what you have to do is you have to look at it as whatever business that you're in as a big giant family. We all live together, we work together. We spend more time with each other at work than we actually do with our real families. So you want to have teamwork, you want to have cooperation, you want people to get along with each other, you want to have fun. You know, you want to come to work and have fun. And I do believe that cross-training is also one of the things that really helps and benefits in that direction towards it. That is one of the things that I have taken the initiative to since I have taken over at the drugstore was to do a lot of cross-training because I found that when we got there we had more employees but less able to do what needed to be done. As healthcare is strings have gotten tighter and we've had to do things, I have gone in, even when people have left us for new jobs, retirement and so forth, learned how to do their job, figured out how to incorporate it into something that I do, or to delegate it over to someone else. And we've actually been able to lower the number of employees that we have, but still be able to get the workflow done. I've encouraged all of our clerks to become technicians, to get licensed, and then to look on further to being certified technicians. Because I think that anybody should be encouraged to grow and to get to a further place. Now, does that mean that you're not going to still be working as a clerk at some point in time? No, you're going to be working as a clerk. But with the ability as a technician, you now have an understanding of the back, and you're able to better serve your customer in the front, because instead of having to go to the back and ask that person that question, you can look it up on the computer system at that point in time and do so.
How have you handled conflicts or morale issues among the staff? And what you touched on this a little bit, and what leadership style do you bring to employee relations?
Okay. HR is a huge part of my job. Not only do I do all of the policies and procedures, all of the intakes and hirings and firings, and I'm responsible for making sure that everybody gets their evaluations done also too. I believe that evaluations are important, but I don't think that they're the only thing that's important. They're necessary. We had to have documentation and so forth with it. I like to go out and talk to my people. I like to say, how are things going? I like to walk to the break room, sit down with them and say, how's today? Oh, well, you know, we're stressed out. We've got this person's here, this, that, and the other thing towards it there. Of course, working with a small town and working with a small group of people, they get on each other's nerves sometimes. And I will say that I have found that anytime I have something that's going on, when I first started, and I guess I'm throwing a weakness out for you, when I first started, I was sort of afraid to get involved in the interpersonal because a lot of the employees had been there for years and worked with each other. I made a mistake with that. I ended up with 2 employees that were feuding with each other, and eventually it turned into an issue that basically had gone throughout the entire pharmacy. People were taking sides, people were teaming up, and so forth with it. So at that point is when I learned that silence is a bad choice. At least it is for me. And that not all things are going to be able to be worked out. So I'm pretty direct when we have interpersonal problems, if we actually have something that's, you know, a mistake that's been made, if we have an action towards it there. My first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to call that person in and I'm going to talk to them about it. I'm going to find out from their side how they feel on it too, not just whatever was told to me by the complaint from the customer or the complaint from the person that works with them and all towards it. My second thing that I do is I go to the person that has had the complaint, or, you know, and I follow up with them on towards it there, and I ask them at the same point in time too, what could you have done in this situation to assist this person and make sure that that couldn't happen? Because, you know, this is your responsibility also. In our business, I want everybody to be a team. So we work as a team, we succeed as a team, we fail as a team. So then after I've gone through both and talked to both people about whatever's going on into that situation with it, I feel like communication is the most important thing. So we've had a communication breakdown, something has occurred, I then go in and I talk either as a store meeting, as a memo, you know, a new change in policy that everybody has to read and sign for and do, and let everybody know this has occurred, this is how we're handling it, and this is what I expect from you from here forward.
Are there any follow-up questions at this point?
How important do you think transparency is in communication with this board?
Extremely. Transparency is a huge part of communication. If you have something that you need to bring to me, then you need to bring it to me. If I have a concern or I have something that I need to bring to you, I need to bring to you. But at the same point in time, it's also because it is public, it is something that probably a lot of transparency needs to be, with the public at the same point in time too. That way they know what we've talked about, what we're thinking with each other, what the law allows us to do, what the policy allows us to do, and work with it from there.
When disciplined employees, how important do you think documentation is?
Oh, documentation is extremely important. Basically, when I look at disciplinary actions and all towards on it there, that first talk that I'm going to have with somebody is more than likely going to be documented that I had a conversation, even if it's just as it's, a verbal conversation. If I have to go further with that, it's definitely going to either at that point in time be a verbal warning of what's going on, and even on a verbal warning, I've always made my employees that I've talked with sign off on what we've talked about. That way it's not just me and my word on it, they're signing off that yes, this is what we've talked about. If we get to a written warning, again, it's very similar to the verbal warning in towards it, it's just labeled differently towards it there. And after that point in time, the actions are going to get stronger. Depending on the violation, it could be fired. It could be sent home for a few days. Those are the type of things that we have had to do and with that. I also work with, in my job, the Department of Labor, and when people file for unemployment and do those type of things too. And typically, most people that have left us left on pretty good terms and all towards it there. But we've also had ones that have not, and so I'm familiar with documentation on it too. If it's someone that you don't, we have not felt like deserved to have unemployment at that point in time because of the circumstances of the labor.
I have one quick question. While you're on the conversation of employee relations, handling conflicts, I would also like to ask, or have you addressed rewarding success from individual employees, accomplishing tasks?
Yes, we do.
As we move along through the questions. And this is an incentive program. Something that's been going through my mind in the last couple of months is how to drive employees to complete their task in a timely manner, take pride in their work, show up on time at work, accomplish these tasks. I'm not sure if it's ever been done within a municipal type situation where employees are given rewards based on their performance. And that's something we may need to talk about is bonuses, that sort of thing. Like I said,
Bonuses.
it's just an idea that I have in trying to promote success within the workplace for our community, for our city.
Bonuses and raises, of course, are always, good incentives when you're looking at things like that. In our own business, when we did diabetic shoes, we did incentives on diabetic shoes. So for each person that our fitter was able to go through and fit shoes for, we gave her, $5 off of it. This was probably 20 years ago. But, that added along towards her with it. Other incentives and things that we also do a lot of times are just basic things that make things, cheerful too. We get donuts from the donut shop, and we take them over to everybody and tell them how much we love them, appreciate them. Thank you so much for everything that you do for us. Here's a treat. We try to participate in things like where the chamber has done the Halloween costumes. So, of course, as a business, we're asking our employees at that point in time to go out and buy a Halloween costume with the theme of what we're doing towards it. So what we would typically do at that point in time is give them $10 or $15 for everybody that participated in it to help, supplement that and to show our appreciation for, them going out that extra mile, that type of thing towards it. A lot of times too, just, for a Valentine's Day or any of those type of things, having special treats and doing different things in towards it. One year we are female based, so we bought roses for everybody. Just things out there, little things that can say and do that with it. We'll frequently just do a day that say we're going to have a potluck, or we'll have a day that we're going to call in food and have food for everybody so that they don't have to go out, they don't have to buy lunch, they don't have to do those things. So some of those things are incentives too, other than just being a bonus, or, you know, that makes them feel like you see them, you understand what they're going through, you understand that work is tough on some days. Especially like for us, when it's a snow day, we've had to go before and have the local police department do deliveries for us because we don't have anybody to get out. But we've always gone and gotten food brought in and done for everybody that's going to be there that day.
All right, moving along. Clifton's a tight-knit community with unique local values. How do you balance professional administration with community-driven decision-making?
Well, again, Clifton is a small town. Wayne County is a small county. You have to be available to the commissioners. You have to be available to your department heads. You have to be available to the citizens. You know, that way they can come to you. They can talk to you about their problems, their thoughts, their concerns. Working in healthcare, that's one of the things that I've learned years and years ago, is that even sometimes if you're not able by a policy or a law in order to be able to do something, if you can take that time and actually lend that ear, listen, empathize, and validate where that person is coming from, they can even understand at that point in time what's going on. They may not be happy with it, but maybe you can make them understand why the decision is the decision it's not. Also, again, back to the same thing, if you talk to people, you find out what people are interested in. You find out what, you know, problems and concerns they have. And a lot of times those things can be looked at and addressed and can even be fixed.
Tell us about a time you led a city or a department through a major change, and what did you learn, and how would you apply that to Clifton?
Well, the startups would definitely be ones, but I would say I'm going to go with leading through COVID was probably the biggest thing for everybody right now. Of course, being in healthcare, we were required to stay open as a drugstore, but we were not allowed to have our doors open. So that makes a big challenge when you can't physically have people in your business, but yet you still have to provide for their needs. So what we did in that is we do have a drive-through, and of course that was, you know, the number one thing we did was our drive-through towards it. But you could be backed up all the way to the square if you just did the drive-through. So we got cones and we put out numbers and everything, and we did curbside service at the same point in time. It also allowed us to keep our employees working at that point in time. We went out, we went to your door, we asked what you needed, we filled out anything we needed, we went back and forth, and we got back. At the time too, since so many people were not going out of town and not doing a lot of their shopping and businesses were closed, we changed a lot of some of our OTC inventory. I'm going to say that toothpaste, toothbrushes, and mouthwash were not probably one of our big things that we normally sold on a regular basis at that point. It was something we were selling on a regular basis because you came to pick up your prescription, but you needed not just your prescriptions, your vitamins, and your OTCs. You needed shampoo, you needed hairspray, you needed something basically towards it. So that was the other thing that we did at that point in time, is we brought in items that, you know, the customer base was asking for. So that's, again, listening to your community on that and making sure that we had things available for it. We were also providing COVID shots, and we provided them in the car if we needed to do it, and COVID testing at that point in time. So, you know, we did the best that we could in that situation to meet all of the community needs that we could, protect our employees at the same point in time. We did masking. We had a shortage of hand sanitizer, so I was literally went to the vet's office and got ultrasound gel and 99% alcohol and was making homemade hand sanitizer so that we could keep ourselves sanitized.
What did you learn from that situation that you could apply to Clifton?
Well, I think anytime that you're in any situation, you have to be able to be flexible. You have to learn what the needs of the community are. You have to learn what the jobs are that need to be done. Again, that goes back into the prioritizing in like your infrastructure and things that are going on towards it. If you can handle it in a crisis, you're going to be able to do it better when it's not in a crisis mode and we have time to think about it, talk about it, and do.
All right. We're at the point now where you get to ask the commissioners any questions.
I get to ask the questions now. All right.
You have about 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes, okay. Well, anybody that wants to answer this question, I've read the job description, I've put everything out and on towards that. If you are looking at your number one person on towards it, what expectations do you have for them that are outside of the basic job description? What would you want to see from me?
Good clear lines of communication.
Okay.
Transparency is a big one.
Okay.
Yes, just communication in general to each and every one of us. Availability for you to reach out to us and us to reach out to you on a daily basis, even during business, maybe after business hours. That communication throughout much of this process, whether it be with the commissioners or any city manager that we choose, is key to all of us being on the same page. I think we have been lacking in communication amongst all of us, so that's one place I think we could excel.
Until I go to bed at night, my cell phone is always on, and I usually, if I don't answer it, I usually do call back on towards it. I'm very familiar with the fact that business does not stop at the time that everybody clocks out, goes home, and the store closes down. There are emergencies. There are definitely going to be events, conversations, and things that sometimes need to be done outside of the regular business hours. So by all means, that's definitely something that I'm used to, and I would expect that in this job.
Do you have any other questions?
No, that was really my biggest one.
If you were the selected candidate, what would your salary and benefit expectations be?
Well, I know that it was listed in it, and if I was to be chosen, I'm sure that we could probably find somewhere in the middle ground to be happy with.
Any follow-up questions? We have about 2 minutes.
It's a universal question I wanted to ask all the applicants about relocating. Might as well apply it to all of them. I know she is from Waynesboro, which is much closer, but should we just ask every
Yeah, you can.
Ask whatever.
applicant,
Yeah.
would you be willing to relocate?
What, to Clifton?
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary.
It is something that I would definitely consider. I would like to see how long-term the job was with it and towards it. My plan would be for it to be a long-term retire in Clifton type thing towards it. My current situation is that I have my youngest going to UNA, so while he's going to UNA, I would prefer to keep him closer into that direction, or if he decides to move down there and then that would be something towards it with it there. But outside of that, as a single woman, I do have the ability to move to wherever I want to, and living on the river is definitely not something I would ever complain about doing, because we do enjoy it, and my boys would really love to have a place that they could park their boat instead of having to take it back and forth.
One thing that we can just recover from each interview is our charter states that a 4/5 majority can remove a city manager within the first year, and a simple majority after that first year. That's something that I've stated during the first interview, and I think we should state it with every interview.
Do you have any concern with that?
I would say, I mean, I understand that the last one was removed. I would hope that we would have good communication, again, the transparency, we would be able to talk with each other and resolve any issues so that we would not need to end up into that direction. That would be my main thoughts towards that with it. But then again, that is, you know, like I said, one of the reasons why I would not be willing to relocate right at this point in time either, too. I would like to see how it works out.
It's not a requirement that you relocate anyway.
And there is one of the things that I would like to point out too is in our own stores and with it there too, sort of in the same concept, we sort of have one of those things where it's sort of a nobody's fault type thing with it. Because if you get into a job, you go to the job with expectations. And if someone comes to that job with expectations and we're not meeting their expectations or they're not meeting our expectations, sometimes it is better to just cut your losses early and move on instead of trying to drag things on and see if things will get better and work out from there.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
All right. It was very nice to talk with y'all. Y'all too.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
Hello.
Yeah,
So I understand 2 minutes now?
2 minutes for an introduction, and then I'll jump into the questions.
Okay. Hi, I'm Joshua Gert. I have an interest in the city, manager position. I understand it has a lot of responsibility, not only to the businesses here, but the citizens itself. I understand the role is at the will of the board, and as a will of the board and the satisfaction and pleasure of the board, you're the boss. I also understand that while I've had a lot of experience in my career, not only as a CPA, but a partner in a firm, a business owner, I realize that people are really the key to everything. People bring challenges, but also opportunities to move the city agenda forward. I have experience in human resources, technology, but most of all networking and growing the businesses that we have existing in here, but attracting other businesses too. I understand that the city's financial position is strong. Net position of over $12,100,000. Expenditures to revenues are about 27%, which means that the city is in a good position to continue moving forward. I want the job. I'd like to do a good job. I'd like to have the opportunity to really make the job easier for you. So the questions I have going forward are based on my experience. Really has to do with growing people around me. I find that success isn't only what I succeed in, but the greatest success I feel is the success of the people around me. I've had hundreds of boards of experience and experiences on boards, not only being a president, but a treasurer, had experience in developing audit programs for governments, municipalities, school districts. And compliance has always been something that has been important to me. In my career, we have a guide here. We have a charter, and our charter is a guide for how the city works effectively and efficiently. And I understand in the charter as a manager commissioner, our roles are defined and our duties are segregated. And it's my job to improve communication and make streamlined decisions so that it's easier for you to do your job. I appreciate the opportunity to interview.
Thank you. Please describe your experience preparing and managing municipal budgets. How do you ensure fiscal responsibility while meeting the community needs?
And handling municipal budgets, I've really been on the auditor side of things. I've audited budgets, been in that position. I've never worked for a city. I've worked for a state as an intern early on, and I've interviewed for a senator internship. The municipal budget side is important because I understand that the difference between financial accounting, which is what I've had most of my career, all of my career, is different than government accounting. Whereas financial accounting is a lot about what's useful to the investor, what's useful to the business owner. The biggest difference with government accounting and budgets are accountability, visibility, what's important to the board to make decisions in moving the city forward. And also, not only for the board, but for the citizens and regulating bodies, the state of Tennessee, and making sure we're compliant in our charter and requirements. Because the financials are also used for grants and other revenue sources that bring revenue into the city so we can make capital investments and further the city's goals.
Clifton's a small city with limited resources. How would you identify opportunities to improve financial efficiency without compromising service?
Well, government is a service organization, and in order to leverage the limited resources that we have, we explore opportunities to grow revenue resources. Capital improvements in a small community is important because the government is a service provider. The best government that I see is one that you don't notice because things are brought, things are handled, things are made efficiently for not only businesses but for the citizens that are in it. So there's opportunities in a limited environment to maximize on sales tax revenues, apply for grants. From an efficiency standpoint, you can have rigorous grant compliance proposals. We can have training, and by using people, we can spread some of those responsibilities around and not only grow in the success of the limited resources of the city, but improve the efficiency by training other people to do the job and recognize opportunities to grow this community.
What strategies would you implement to attract and retain businesses in a small rural community like Clifton?
To attract businesses and attract businesses in this community, it is one of those opportunities to say and encourage community involvement. What opportunities do we have here for businesses, and what opportunities do we have to grow those businesses? We have a lot of business owners here, and I think from facilitating methods of attracting customers and current people, we highlight our opportunities as a small community. It is a close-knit community. We can use certain tax breaks to attract businesses. We can use strength of our net financial position and our money to strengthen infrastructure and make it one of the businesses.
How have you successfully collaborated with local chambers of commerce, tourism boards, regional development agencies to promote economic development?
I've been a part of the Chamber of Commerce, and what I found is, as a loose networking position, there is an opportunity for a giver's gain mentality. We give back to the businesses that are here, and in reality, the result is a gain in overall confidence and credibility. There's synergies in chambers and in boards where we maximize those things that we have in common, what we love about the city, what we enjoy. And where there are disagreements, we can celebrate those disagreements. A lot of times from a chamber perspective, it's about business, and it's about growing each other's businesses, knowledge, and understanding. I enjoyed my experience as being part of a chamber and working with boards to improve efficiencies and have a better overall experience for people.
Describe your experience with capital improvement planning, and how do you prioritize infrastructure projects when funding is limited?
Capital improvements are an integral part of any government association that provides resources. So within an enterprise fund, you find a lot of capital improvements that need to be made. Build bridges, build water plants, and also maintain them over a period of time. There are always competing priorities, but within the capital improvements, we want things to work as effectively as possible. Regular maintenance. And while there may be limited resources within those funds, you want to maximize what you have. So from a capital improvement standpoint, you're also mitigating risk. When you mitigate the risk of failure, continuing to maintain those capital improvements, the best case scenario is the citizens don't even realize that there's something that could happen, because governments hardly even notice that the water's running, the sewer's working, electric is happening.
Clifton, like many small towns, faces aging infrastructure. What steps would you take to assess needs and secure funding for upgrades or repairs?
To assess needs and upgrades for repairs, there likely need to be a risk assessment that's conducted for those items that need to be maintained. From a utility standpoint, we don't want surprises. We want surprises when it comes to their water, their sewer. Oftentimes, I know there's a rate increase that's happening, and those funds are dedicated to maintaining those capital resources, municipal services that are brought. So from a tactical standpoint, it's really doing what people can do to make sure those risks are mitigated.
We're at the point where we have an opportunity for follow-up questions for the first 6 questions. Are there any follow-ups, sir?
Tell us about some of your experience in pursuing grants.
I haven't really been in an opportunity to pursue grants, but I have been on the audit side to assess the effectiveness of compliance. I've helped cities develop rigorous programs to help manage compliance and make sure those things are not violated. So there's usually a plan in place to keep track of those grants, as well as make sure that they are in compliance so that there is no violations that would hinder the funding and the needs for the grant that was provided.
Thank you.
Do you think all grants are good grants?
I think all grants are grants. Some may not be necessary. I think pursuing grants that are consistent with the vision for the city are the grants worth pursuing.
How important do you think transparency and communication is to this board?
I think it's vital. I think transparency and accountability is the crux of government standards for accounting, and not only just in the accounting side, but in all administrative matters, as a chief operations officer.
How important do you think documentation is?
Documentation helps mitigate the risks of further liability that the city could be exposed to.
Just circling back to question number 3, what strategies would you use to implement, attract, and retain businesses to a rural community like Clifton? I asked this question earlier. My ideas, tax incentives for new businesses would be something like our water and sewer, as well as our property rate, our property tax rate for commercial property. When you came to this board, would you be willing to advise this board in a manner that would attract those businesses to those properties? And I don't know if I'm wording it exactly the same, but in my eyes, we would, want to reduce the property taxes, maybe sell them water and gas and that sort of thing, sewer at cost. Is that something you'd be willing to work with the board to try to navigate through on a potential piece of property? Sorry about that.
I think attracting businesses by reducing property tax rates and providing incentives for use of utilities or selling them at cost is a very favorable way of attracting new businesses. The businesses you want to attract are those that have the vision of the board and the vision that the board has for the city.
Okay, moving on, we're to 7 now. I think there's a total of 12 here, so you're in a good time. How do you see park and open spaces contributing to Clifton's quality of life and economic development?
Park and open spaces contributing to that. I think the parks are a wonderful place for the community to interact and have certain festivals and places for not only kids but adults to enjoy. I enjoy watching people out on the splash pad and fishing and being part of watching baseball games at the ball fields, but I think the open spaces are maybe low-hanging fruit for integrating opportunities that really that grow the community and bring people together. Because kind of like I said earlier, I believe people are the answer. I believe communication and opportunities for people to interact help make the city a more enjoyable place to live in.
What experience do you have in planning or expanding recreational spaces in small communities? And how would you engage the public in the process?
Engaging the public on expanding park and recreational activities is interesting, because I'm not sure I've ever met anybody that said, "Hey, you want to expand the park?" and they said no, because it's been one of those opportunities where people come together and enjoy sporting events or concerts. And so from managing park improvement, it's in my experience in private and public accounting, I've been on the consumer side, where I may not have been able to help, but have provided advice and feedback to leverage those parks and concerts, and having a little more opportunity to have the events that take place that are appealing to people. And by doing that, it's asking questions and communicating with the public. Do that either by posting it on a website, putting it in the paper, walking around and shaking people's hands and asking them questions.
What is your approach to building a strong, motivated municipal team, especially in smaller departments with cross-functional roles?
I'm glad you mentioned the cross-functional roles, because I think cross-function is great. I had the experience of a partner in one of my firms who passed away suddenly, and it was a challenge, because not only are we mourning him, but we are trying to keep the business moving forward. So from a cross-functional standpoint, it was difficult to be motivated, but we were able to meet his clients' needs, meet his administrative roles, but also I believe that the best way to keep people motivated is through constant feedback, and not from a feedback of, you did this wrong, but from a constructive standpoint. It's great to tell people when they did something well, and oftentimes we don't recognize that because that's their job. I believe in the fact that providing positive feedback is just as critical as helping people work through mistakes. By cross-function training, should someone, God forbid, get hit by a bus, some of that challenge can be lifted by the team that's working together.
How have you handled conflicts or morale issues among staff, and what leadership style do you bring to employee relations?
My leadership style is more from a servant leader standpoint. I believe I believe in empowering more. I believe people are treated with dignity and respect. I also recognize that in my many years' experience, I've learned a lot about how to treat individuals that are not only my superiors but my staff. I believe everyone wants to do a good job, and I believe everyone's trying to do their best. And from a challenge standpoint, I like to listen. I like to empathize. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't like to jump to conclusions. I don't know what happened in their life that may have caused conflict. But I also want to be sensitive to who they are as an individual, and I want them to grow and develop, because success to me isn't just what I've accomplished, but I find success in other people's accomplishments as well.
We're at the point for additional follow-up to that group of questions. Yes.
Question earlier. There's been a lot of conversation here in Clifton, and we have someone working on zoning. How would you address zoning throughout our community without restricting this entrepreneur who has an idea about starting a business in his side yard? Just to make it brief, that's an issue that's crossed my mind in the last few weeks. As we grow and expand our town, Neighbors are obviously paying attention to what their neighbors are doing. We want to protect our property owners, but also allow property owners to expand on an idea. It's America. They want to pursue a small business, cutting grass for a living. And how would you approach applying a zoning restriction to the city of Clifton, but still allow that opportunity for property owners to open or start a business? We're obviously going to have limitations, noise ordinances, that sort of thing that are already in existence. I mentioned property standoffs earlier. To expand on that, I do know that in other municipalities, a general rule of thumb is 10 foot from the property line for a no construction zone against your neighbor. With all that being said, and allowing everything that I have said to take place, giving opportunity to entrepreneurs, but as well as respecting the neighbor's property, how would you address the upcoming conversation about zoning in our city?
I would think from a zoning standpoint, my understanding is that if a zone is made for residential, it wouldn't likely have a business zone. There's also mixed use and commercial zone. And I've helped clients help rezone some of their properties to make it more favorable to businesses. I've also helped clients make them more mixed use property as well. I haven't done it a lot, but if there is a zone that doesn't permit a certain business to take place, we explore the opportunities and the vision with the board to say, is this a business worth having to change the zoning? The nice thing about zoning is that it's a decision, and maybe decisions can be changed.
Any other follow-up questions? Okay. Moving along, Clifton's a tight-knit community with unique local values. How do you balance professional administration with community-driven decision-making?
As a close-knit community, anything that's ever done is already known. Everybody, it seems like. And by having that professional position, we know that we are held to a higher standard. Not only from that professional standpoint, but by bringing that reputation. It's a challenging question. Not only because it's the services that we provide as a government, but also having a close-knit community to share ideas. And I believe in this close-knit community, we have all the resources, we have all the talent, we have the abilities to move the city in a direction that the board wants to go. As an administrative officer, I recognize that role, and I believe it's very important. I'm not sure that answers your question.
I'll read it again. Clifton's a tight-knit community with unique local values. How would you balance professional administration with community-driven decision-making?
I think a lot of it is based on the charter as well. I think the charter is the guide that helps us bring forth the opportunities that we want to have. As a close-knit community, just like anywhere else in the world, bad news travels around the world before the good news puts its shoes on. And I think here we want to make sure those things are professional and they're compliant with any grants that we might have or our responsibility to business owners. Keep it transparent. keep the accountability open.
Tell us about a time you led a city or a department through a major change, and what did you learn, and how would you apply that to Clifton?
As a partner in a CPA firm, I ran our tax department and business evaluation department. And it was a transition to have me come in and do it. I was hired to bring that leadership. Our departments have been flat and hadn't been making the money they should have. So I implemented some feedback and data-driven strategies, which allow my employees to grow, help me learn, and really facilitate communication in a way that was very unique. I think that year when we increased our client-to-client profits over 400%, had our biggest bonuses ever, it taught me the value of having that open communication, having open feedback, empowering the staff to ask questions. And what I tried to do was eliminate many of their obstacles. If we can focus on two things, what comes in, and make sure that what comes in is well and it's done well and understood, to what goes out, we can have those lowest common denominators. What's the most important thing? We're providing a service. And from a service standpoint, we want things to be as smooth as possible. So by the collaboration and increasing the knowledge of not only my staff, but my partners and my departments, we were able to grow the business significantly within the first year and enjoy the profits from the growth.
And how would you apply what you learned there to the city of Clifton?
I think from applying it to a municipal standpoint, it's bringing communication and prioritizing communication, prioritizing feedback, sharing responsibilities, recognizing the talents and skills of people that can do the job. I don't really want to be in another position where I lose a partner and all of a sudden it's all crisis, hands-on. What was done here, what was done there. I want there to be a fluid opportunity to improve that communication, to have the opportunity to ask difficult questions about really for the excellence of the community. You know, questions aren't a bad thing. Questions clarify. Questions open us up to learning, and I love to learn. I enjoy learning, and I find success when I help others accomplish their goals.
If offered this position, what would your salary and benefit requirements be?
I would probably lean into the job description that was posted before. Based on my knowledge and experience, I hope I'd be on the higher end. But I'm really happy to be of service and make a contribution. I understand the city's benefits are acceptable and a good benefit program, and I'm happy with what they have.
Any follow-up questions? All right. Now's your opportunity to ask, and you're in good time. You have about 10 minutes to ask any questions of the commissioners you wish.
I don't really envy you guys making these decisions. It's not easy. I can relate because I've been in those situations. pilot. The question I have for you, each of you, is what keeps you up at night with regard to the city? What are you afraid of?
You want to elaborate on that?
Well, I understand that, you know, in any job, there's three critical items. It's solving problems, preventing surprises, and mitigating risk within your authority. Is there anything that's stressing you out about this, about your job, that the city manager may make easier for you?
If I could speak to that, me personally, it's making sure that we are well informed and giving good advice, because what I want to do is make a sound decision, you know, that benefits the community, and without being well informed by the city manager, it's difficult to do. It's one of those things I roll over and keeps me awake at night a little bit.
Diving in a little deeper to what's going on within the city, we have a reoccurring water test issue in which we're failing our TTHMs. And I visited Waynesboro, one of their city meetings, and asked them, you know, if they would be interested in buying water from Clifton. And answer seems to be no. And one of the problems we have, I believe, is flushing hydrants. That was a suggestion by the city of Waynesboro as well. And you asked what keeps me up at night. A lot of citizens would like a passing water test. As simple as that may seem, I think we're producing clean water. It just becomes stagnant out on one end of our line. Circling back around with that issue, comes the most close question here is question 10. How do you handle conflicts and morale issues among staff, and what leadership style do you bring to employee relations? If that failing water test is easily corrected by flushing hydrants, how could we promote our staff to more actively flush hydrants? And a question I had earlier was, with our staff, could we, or would you be interested in entertaining the idea of incentives, like, you know, a bonus for performing a task in a timely manner, or adequate amount of time. I don't know that I'm necessarily phrasing that into a question as much as I am an issue that's going on with our failing water test. And something being as simple as flushing hydrants is what I'm coming back to. So how would you handle that morale? If that's a morale issue, how would you handle that?
Well, I think I hear what keeps you up. It's fresh water.
Well, it's a particular area. It's not over the entire town.
Having fresh water, and then motivating individuals to maybe try things that haven't been tried before. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Well, if you touched on bonuses, if you're going to elaborate on, you know, obviously with a tight budget, how can we promise these employees a bonus for performing the task in a timely manner and getting this problem solved with our water, even if it is at the end of the line?
Yeah, if the money's tight, there won't be bonuses, but there can be recognition. And I think recognition and accomplishment is vital to growing a community. If we have issues where we're having trouble sleeping because, wow, it sounds simple, but nobody's doing it. And I think maybe we need to have more of a deeper conversation on how to get that done. And recognizing it's a priority of the city to eliminate stagnant water, we can hold people accountable for maybe smoothing that whole situation out. Because I understand that's a concern. We don't want failing water tests. Even if it's in a small area, any failed water test can be a blemish. So we want to be able to prevent that and maintain it.
It's in a small area, but everyone within the water system gets the notification.
My thing is keep me up is a better way to serve our seniors and our young people. That's the only reason I'm sitting here today. We gotta take better care of our senior citizens and we're gonna plan for our younger people to do so they don't go up and leave.
And I appreciate that. I think in the role and as boards and commissioners, citizens are most important, especially those that are most vulnerable. My knowledge is accountant, the knowledge is human resources, and kids today, their jobs haven't even been created yet. We don't even know what's going to be coming ahead. As far as protecting our seniors, not only from cyber threats and being taken advantage of, I think that is a priority. And that makes a lot of sense. Have more opportunities to integrate with the seniors and create programs for kids to keep them, I don't want to use the term occupied so much, but keep them engaged in doing things that are more constructive. And I think even working with the school and the college can help promote that too. So,
Yeah.
I know Commissioner Lutzen mentioned about being well-informed and having good advice. Is there anything that the city manager can do to help make the job for the board easier and carry on the city's vision? Maybe that's the question that you just answered. Staying well-informed. Data decisions are easier to substantiate. Any other decision can be based on opinion. And I will try to do that with facts. Where do you see the vision of the city going in the next year? How do you expect that vision to go? So, the question is, bottom line question is, how do you see the city a year from now, beginning with that end in mind? If you saw, how would you define success as a city in a year from now?
I'd like to focus on our financial situation. I know I asked about the water situation earlier. So infrastructure as well as our financial stability for me.
Water plant.
Let's do a lot of cleanup done, riverbanks, personal property, everything. We gotta make our town appealing for people that want to move there.
Expand the riverfront in all forms. So cleanup, availability, ferry boat, river boat, whatever it takes. That's why people are coming here, the river.
For recreation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So brought me here.
Well, I want to throw one more thing in. Since we've talked about tax incentives for new businesses and property and zoning, we haven't touched on industrial development. Should we try to focus more on attracting businesses to some of the possible commercially zoned property on 641? I'm getting off the topic.
Well, we have 1 minute to answer that. I guess you could sum it up and you could answer.
We've got a lot of senior citizens, but we want to create opportunity for our young people too.
Restaurant.
Not necessarily heavily industrialized, but we could use more business.
We'll be later.
Any closing statements? You got a minute.
I appreciate everything. I appreciate the volley back and forth and questions. The service that you're providing to the city. Like I said, I don't want to be some of those decisions that we have to make. I understand that you're the legislative body. The city manager is the one that enforces the charter and serves at the best interest of the city. I like the job.
Thank you.
I'll walk you back.
Wow.
I got you that time.
You got me, girl. Oh, no, the 9th. The 9th of August. Should we check that? Did the last full day?
I thought they've been doing a decent amount of it.
We go over and eat.
Flower shop.
Who?
We go over and eat, but take it all right.
Didn't know that.
Behind.
Oh,
That's
no.
my second
Yeah, we've
time.
been over twice and David's
Well,
always
you're
fried pork
double
chops
behind.
and they bring in grilled
Yeah,
pork
well,
chops every
it's
time.
like hell the last few days.
County Highway Department. Came into to that office. I was assistant there as county road superintendent, and had a tragic accident May of '05 and lost our road superintendent. And I was appointed by the county commission to finish out his term, and then won the 2006 election and served a full term as county highway road superintendent. Then lost the election in 2010, went to work for a company based in Chicago, Gallagher Asphalt Corporation, and I handled their southeast operations. I had 7 states to oversee with several crews. Did marketing and project management for them. When I'd get a job, I would go in and I would get all of the permits ahead of time. Lay out the logistics for the crew to perform that operation. If they needed water, I would go ahead and get a meter and a tap set up for their access. I would go ahead and rent a place for them to store equipment, park equipment at night, that kind of thing. Did that for about 9.5 years, and the leaving on Sunday afternoon right after church and getting home on Friday night got real old. My wife was raising all 5 of our kids. 1 had already left home, but I decided that I wanted to make a change in that. And so I applied to Collier Engineering, which is Chad Collier. He's from Woonwall, but his company is based in Nashville, and that's who I presently work for. Working for him, I have done project management and engineering inspection. I've also done marketing efforts for that company. Been there for almost 6 years and have really enjoyed it. Chad was a good friend of mine long before I went to work there. It's real easy to be loyal to his company because he's an excellent employer. He really is.
Jeff, you need to wrap up.
Okay. All right. And that's pretty well it as far as my introduction and the jobs that I've done, very similar to the jobs that the city has going now.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to jump in here. There's 12 questions. And so 45 minutes, if you could keep it to about 3 minutes each. Please describe your experience preparing and managing municipal budgets, and how do you ensure fiscal responsibility while meeting community needs?
Well, I did the budget for the county highway department, and that budget was $4, $5, $6 million, something comparable to the cities. After the second year in office, we had no findings from the auditors, from the comptroller's office from that point forward. I plan on meeting those needs, of course, by the input of the commission. You folks listen to the people in the city and you know what they want, and then we sit down, put priorities on that. We then dictate what the income is. We have revenue lines, and then we have to match that up with our expenditure lines. Of course, some grants use match money. We'd have to provide that match money, and that would dictate what projects get highest priority and which ones are feasible for the city. Got projects that can move things forward, multimodal sidewalk projects that bring new things to town. But we also have to look back at water, sewer, gas, streets, things that our everyday citizens are using each and every day. And those have to be upgraded. They don't last forever. So those are things that we'd have to look back at and keep also on the front burner to manage the city.
Clifton's a small town with limited resources. How would you identify opportunities to improve financial efficiency without compromising services?
That would be by going back through and looking for waste in all of the departments. And with the small encompassing departments here, I would think that ought to be fairly easy to find. The addition of new revenue is something that's going to be a little bit difficult, I think. It would be great to recruit in someone that would do 50 jobs, something like that here. That would be a big help as far as our tax base. But here again, Wayne County doesn't support a lot of industry or jobs or things like that. I do believe that the new water treatment facility, when in operation, would provide more water, and that in turn would be something that would be inviting to some of the industries. They would need more water to do their processes.
What strategies would you implement to attract and retain businesses in a rural community like Clifton?
I think that the Main Street webpage is pretty good. I think that we could offer them possibly some incentives on some taxes. I don't know if that's already happening or not, but that would be something that would make them more inviting. You certainly need to look at tourism and promoting tourism, the golf course, the river, things of that nature, scheduling the Horseshoe Bend Festival, boat runs, poker runs, things of that nature. I think there's opportunity for tourism and weekend-long events that would bring in people that would spend money for sales tax and lodging. And I'm not aware if the city of Clifton already has a hotel tax or not, a lodging tax, but that would be something that you might look at to add on to that.
How have you successfully collaborated with local chambers of commerce, tourism boards, or regional development agencies to promote economic development?
Well, I don't know that I have actually done that because I've not been in a position where that was necessary. I have collaborated with many cities and counties to get projects done. I've collaborated with chambers of commerce to get letters of support for those projects in order to get awarded. Also with the legislatures, the senators, the representatives, things of that nature, in order to get awarded projects like that. I think that collaboration is one of my strong suits. I'm not afraid to talk to whoever and see their point of view and come to an agreement so that we can move a project or a city in the direction that it is agreed by the commission to go in. So I feel like that that would be something that I could easily do along with your help.
Describe your experience with capital improvement planning and how do you prioritize infrastructure projects when funding is limited?
Well, the highway department prioritized capital improvement planning by average daily traffic count. My objective was to work on the roads that more people used. Same thing here. If it's a problem with the water system, you got most everybody in town that's using it. So it would have to take precedence over some one street paving project or something of that nature. And a lot of it, you folks will be setting the priorities on initially, and I will be carrying out whatever your decision was. Capital improvements as far as purchasing equipment, things of that nature, certainly would be determined from department heads and their needs and coming up with what has the need the most, not only for that department but for the city itself. Would be open to, I think the mayor had mentioned in a meeting, working with the county highway department. We may not have the money for a dump truck, but we may not have full-time work for that dump truck. And I've got excellent relationships with the other cities and the county departments already to work with them and coordinate with them to get things done.
Clifton, like many small towns, faces aging infrastructure. What steps would you take to assess needs and secure the funding for upgrades or repairs?
The first thing I would do is go off of the state reports that come in on each of those pieces of infrastructure. Primarily every year, you'll have reports from TDEC that come in and analyze the systems. Their recommendations would be brought to the five of you, and we would discuss those. The CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, that is a really powerful way to upgrade these systems, and their matches are somewhere between 10% and 25%. It's a great way to replace those, and there are other projects, other grant programs out there that can be accessed. I do realize we have a limited, and I'm not fully acquainted yet with the revenue lines of the city and how and where your revenues come from, so to speak. But that's something I think I could catch up on in just 2 or 3 days by looking at your budget and revenue lines, and with the help of Sam also. But I think that would be the purpose of determining. That would be the proper way to determine how to keep the aging infrastructure up. TDEC has a lot of grants. The ARP funding grants, I'm not sure how they were used here in the city of Clifton, but I have been over Waynesboro's ARP grants, City of South Carthage, City of Gordonsville, several things. Smith County is one of them I worked on, Moore County and Lynchburg. But have a pretty good list of projects where infrastructure was replaced, and I was the project manager on those. Everything from water, sewer, to paving.
Now's your opportunity for follow-up from the first 6 questions.
Do you think all grants are good?
No, sir. I do not. Some of them are way too strenuous in their guidelines to be completed in a timely manner.
How important do you think transparency and communication is with this board?
Utmost important.
How important do you think documentation is?
very important. It gives you something to fall back on. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, whoever gets this position, at some form or time, you're going to have so many decisions that you're bound to make one wrong at some point. But your documentation can explain why you made it that way. And it can protect you if it was the correct or incorrect. Either way, it may have some place to protect you in that decision, especially with employees.
Any other questions? Okay. Number 7. How do you see parks and open space contributing to Clifton's quality of life and economic development?
I was told that there was possibly a grant applied for. Don't know if it's been awarded or not, for an RV park. And I think it's going to go in down close to the amphitheater. I think that would be a great addition. Not knowing the parameters of the grant, I think that itself would be a great addition. It's part of tourism, and if you can bring them in here and they spend 2-3 days versus coming for a one-day boat trip, then you're going to have more money spent, more sales tax generated. I think something like that would be a great addition to the city. As far as open spaces, I'm not aware of what all properties the city owns. If there's a great deal of it that's already purchased, or if there's more that you're looking at purchasing. But I think that those can be utilized in a way that they could benefit the city, for sure. Hosting events, things of that nature.
What experience do you have in planning or expanding recreational spaces in small communities? And how do you engage the public in that process?
I've worked on projects where a city or a county would come to Collier Engineering, give them a basic idea of what they wanted. I would go out, get the parcels on the property. We would look at what the city or county desired in that space. And then I would go to our landscape architect. He would take that space, he would design it in. I would do the proposal for our services. The city would sign that. We would come up with the design plans, and we would stop and we would go to Tennessee Recreation and Parks Association to check for any available grants. If there was a grant that lined up with what they were wanting to do and it made sense, then I would apply for that grant in the name of that city or county. We would start moving forward on the process, because if the grant gets awarded and you're sitting there with a set of designed plans ready to go, you're practically shovel ready, you have a much better chance of getting awarded. So we would take that route, and then from that point on, I would be in charge of overseeing the contractor, verifying quantities throughout the project, assigning a construction engineering inspection person to be there daily, who would take up all the tickets of the materials arriving on the project, and then I would verify those items before payment to that contractor, and then walk through the job and get it closed out. Make sure that invoices were sent in for reimbursement to the entity, whether it be the county or the city, and regain that money that was in the grant.
How would you engage the public in that process?
Public meetings, public hearings. In fact, most of the grants require those. And of course, they're advertised ahead of time. And you folks are plenty aware of that. Your city meetings allow for the public to speak and come in. And that can be, a great help to get the city behind you as well on a decision like this. But you can find out exactly what they would want on these parks, in these parks. I would assume that the splash pad had some grant funding with it. Not sure, but it would have been the same process. They would have required public hearings to bring them in.
What is your approach to building a strong, motivated municipal team, especially in smaller departments with cross-functional roles?
One, I don't believe that you can rule with an iron fist, but I think you can be very consistent and open with what you expect out of people. I would review each person's work history. I would see if there are any problems still existing, and then I would address those, letting them know that, hey, we've got you working here, and we want to be good to you, and we want you to be good to us. I think that loyalty breeds a much better worker versus trying to browbeat them into the idea of, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. If they're loyal to you, they will work for you, and they will put out for you. I believe that.
How do you handle, or how have you handled conflicts or morale issues among staff? And what leadership style do you bring to employee relations?
Typically in the past, I have used a 3 strikes and you're out. I have used the same disciplinary sheet in my last 3 positions. And it has carbon copies, and it's first offense, second offense, third offense you fill out, and typically it is accompanied by a separation notice. Again, it is consistency and it is clarity with each employee so that they know what is expected of them. And I think I would continue with that same type of program. It has worked for me in the past. You gain respect. If you're going to be clear with them and they know you're telling them the truth and you mean what you say, you gain respect with your employees in that manner.
What is your leadership style?
Leadership style. I would say lead by example. I'm a little bit old to be jumping into ditches and putting pipes together. Not to say that I couldn't do it, but I won't ask anybody else to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And I got a lot of slack when I was county road superintendent because when tornadoes would come through, then the sheriff's department would call and say, we've got trees down on this road, this road, this road, this road. I would go out first and I would work until I got to a situation where I couldn't do it by myself. And then I started in getting a couple other guys and would work it like that. But I wouldn't ask anybody else to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And another thing that I would like to do, I would like to continue my education as far as CMFO, certified public manager. I would like to gain some credentials in water treatment and sewer treatment so that the people, if this all goes through, that would be under me, that I would know what their job entails and what to expect out of them.
Okay. Opportunity for follow-up questions?
That's a redundancy type question, Jeff. I've asked this 4 times now. Going back to question 8, what was your experience planning around recreational spaces for small communities, and how would you engage the public? It's a good time, I guess, to ask about zoning. There's a conversation and efforts going on right now within our city to zone our properties. The concern I have and the conversation I had with everyone here on the board is protecting property owners who are not interested in having a business in the side yard of the house, but allowing that property owner to pursue an idea for business. Jeff here on the end is my example with his bacon business in his side yard at his house. I cut grass out of my mom and dad's side yard on Eagle Creek when I was a kid. We just buried a former fire chief who had a mechanic shop right next door to his house. the concern and the conversation we have, I don't know necessarily that's how to word this in a question. How would you approach zoning so that we're fair to our property owners, but still allow entrepreneurs to pursue an idea?
Zoning is something that I have not had very much experience with at all, and that is something that I would want to dive into and learn more about. I would certainly go with your folks' recommendations, and that would take some real studying as to what has happened in the past to define what is needed for the future. But that's something, I'll be honest with you, I have not had a lot of experience with zoning. And you mentioned about parks development. As a private construction company, we did build the Sportsplex in Waynesboro, Tennessee. Me and a couple of gentlemen were partners, and we built the Sportsplex in Waynesboro, Tennessee. But as far as zoning, I couldn't just straight up answer that right now, because I feel like I need to get deeper dug into the individual situation here in Clifton.
It'll be a topic that we're going to have to cover as a board and as a manager and your staff. And
we already have somebody working on it.
yeah, we have.
From MTAS?
No.
From what's
Here
our
with
department called
Here with
in the city employed.
Something I do think
Her name's
would be
Karen Pepperelli, but I don't know what her title is.
Strategic Planning Director is her title. Strategic Planning Director is her title.
Okay. All right, that'd be a great place to start then.
Ask the other applicants about bonuses and the culture within the workplace and how to provide incentives to our employees. And I've elaborated into the issue with flushing hydrants to get our water to a passing TTHM level. Attended the city meeting in Waynesboro. You were there. And we talked about how to handle the situation at the end of our line where it connects on 64 to Waynesboro's water system. And, eliminating that issue so that everyone on the water system does not get this notification. I have tried to observe, and this is just my own observation of maybe a culture that exists, or maybe we're not creating the incentives to get out and flush these hydrants like we should. Maybe it's a morale issue. What would you do to increase that morale? Would you be open to putting together a plan for employee bonuses or some type of incentives for accomplishment of tasks in a timely manner and performance, job performance?
Yes, certainly. That would take some studying of what all is necessary to be done, how many are in that department, what their assignments are right now as far as responsibilities, and then coming up with what is needed. I would think you could flush that water line at the very last fire hydrant or blow off, and given enough movement through that line, you could reduce those TTHMs. I don't know how cost feasible that's going to be, because that's water you paid to produce.
Well, just diving a little deeper into the subject, but once that is a failing level of TTHMs, that water is not of any value.
Right. So you might as well flush it.
Yeah.
Especially if it could possibly have a positive effect.
Yeah, the idea of flushing money out on the ground, I've thought about that, and if we're not meeting the grade, we're not necessarily flushing money out on the ground at that point.
That's right. Because you couldn't sell the water anyway.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Follow up? Okay.
I'd like to add that with morale issues and conflicts, your 3-strike rule, and you mentioned that you're not a leader of an iron fist. I appreciate that. I do believe that there's would be changes necessary as well. We haven't arrived at hiring a new city manager because we're not looking for change.
Did you have a question?
No.
Okay,
That's
all right.
just a point.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
I mean, is that within
Oh,
the parameters?
Yeah, that's fine. All right, number 11 here. Clifton's a tight-knit community with unique local values. How would you balance professional administration with community-driven decision-making?
I would be out on the streets. I would be in touch with the public. I would be very accessible. When I was previously doing public service, my cell number was on my business card. I would do that again. I want to be completely accessible to the 5 of you and certainly the office staff here, but also the city. Now, I would listen to their words, and at that time would not provide an answer, especially if it was an answer that needed to be voted on by the 5 of you. And I would keep a log of those things, of those ideas, and bring those to you for discussion. Now, 9 times out of 10, you've already heard this, more than likely from that same person, because they're accessing you even more so than they would be the city manager. So that's the whole idea of being accessible in a small town. This would not be anything very new to me as far as that. I was always accessible at the highway department. And if I wasn't at the office, they could get in touch with me. I would go by whoever's house on whatever road they needed looked at and incorporate that in. But this small, tight-knit community, I want to be somewhat of a glue to keep this community together and on the same page. And I know not everybody is going to agree on every project or every decision, but I think that the majority can get headed in the same direction for the better of Clifton.
Tell us about a time you led a city department or a department through a major change. What did you learn, and how would you apply that to Clifton?
When I came into the highway department, 3 months after I had taken office, the TBI and the comptroller's office came in, arrested all the office staff, confiscated all the computers. The sheriff's department came to me with some footage of an undercover buy that was made by an employee in a county vehicle. And at that point, I had to make major changes. I fired several people that were implicated and started over in several places. I don't know, I guess most of y'all probably know Sherry Partain. I hired her as my office manager, and she came in and did a wonderful job, and was one of the major reasons that from that point on, as far as book work, we got no findings. We had clean books. At that time, the county highway department sold tiles to the public, culverts. I never saw the real reasoning behind that, because we didn't mark it up, we didn't make any profit. I didn't know why. And it was convenience for the local construction guys with backhoes and so forth. But after 2 weeks in that office and a couple of tiles being sold for cash, and then that cash coming up missing, I ended that process. We're not in business to do that, and if it's going to get us in trouble, we're sure not going to do it. And when the comptrollers came in, they said, "Why did you quit selling tile 2 weeks after you came in office?" And I said, "Because it wasn't working for us. It just didn't seem like something we should do." And that was one of the major findings, is that tiles were being sold and the money was not being deposited in the line item at the trustee's office. So they thought that someone had gave me word that was part of the investigation. And I didn't know there was an investigation at all. I was just doing what was right. I was also pointed out that there's certain percentages of grant reimbursements for administration that you could pay directly out to the people that handled that administration once you receive that grant money in. Well, those people had already been paid hourly by the county. And when I was hit up to do that, this was before the comptroller's office came in, I told them, I said, that's unethical. I'm not going to do that. I don't care if the last guy did it. I'm not going to do it. So there's a real easy way. If you let black and white be black and white by the law, and don't draw your own gray shaded areas, it's a whole lot easier to stay out of those gray shaded areas.
If offered the position, what would your salary and benefit expectations be?
I would expect, and I say this because I have a good job, and I say this because I feel like that I could come here and do a good job, and that you could count on me for the next 5 to 8 years. I'm 60. I turned 60 last week. I would like to see $112,500 for a starting salary with the standard benefits. I have discussed those with Sam about what Mr. Kitty had, and those do look comparable. I will be leaving behind short-term, long-term, and life insurance at my present employer, and that extra little bit of raise would help me to run those policies on myself and protect my family. But as you all may know, I do have custody of 3 of my grandchildren right now, and I don't know how much that will last, how much longer. Their mother's doing quite well, but that may transfer back in another 2 or 3 months. But nonetheless, that's personal things that I'll be taking care of anyway.
You got a few minutes to ask any questions of the commissioners you wish.
All right. Wow, I didn't expect this opportunity. How do you feel versus these grants and projects of improvement and putting in things that you don't have versus grants and projects to revamp, replace existing water, sewer, gas, and streets? What holds the highest priority to you out of the 2?
The things that are necessary infrastructure.
That are already in place.
So that we back.
Yeah.
Did you repeat the question? Grants and projects for existing infrastructure or new infrastructure? That's what you're basically asking?
Even grants for tourism projects like the sidewalk and things of that nature.
Well, we'd have to decide that as a commission. Each of us has got an opinion.
Right. That's what I'm asking each of you's opinion.
Yeah. Well, as far as my input to this commission and putting a value on grants for existing infrastructure, it's really going to depend on, the type of infrastructure, whether it be a gas line or water line or a sewer. All of those are priority. I mean, that's your staples of your city. We have talked about a water plant beyond my memory, long before I was on this commission. So I'm assuming the rest of you guys would like to see some movement on that. Projects. There's one that's going on right now with the sidewalk. I don't know if we can elaborate too often much with our grants.
Yeah, as long as you're answering the question, yeah.
Well, there's going to be some conversation about what to do with our grant money on a sidewalk over here on Water Street. And it looks like we're going to come up short on our grant to do that. And we probably all got different ideas about how to approach that project. In my opinion, I think we should move forward with that project until our money runs out. In fact, I have given some questions to Sam about asking where our money would run out in relation to an address on Water Street. There's also a sidewalk over here on Polk Pillow Street. It's historic, and there's a lot of it. It looks like it still exists, but in this dry weather, we can see the rocks under the ground. My great aunt is one of the yards. Her boyfriend's yard has the rocks where the grass is dead on top of it. I think that's something our utility department could work on to improve that existing sidewalk and get it up where you can see it again. Prioritizing those particular things over water, gas, and sewer. In my opinion, we probably need to keep water, gas, and sewer going over making sure a sidewalk's cleaned off, obviously. But that's just my opinion.
Could anyone give me just a brief update on where the water treatment facility is? From what I gathered at the meetings, it is just about ready for bidding. Is that correct?
Yeah, it'd be more of a James question. He's been working on, working with Davina. Yeah. The last I heard is we're supposed to break ground, I believe, in October. But he would have more of a definite answer just because I've been kind of back in this office. So
I think that I'd have some real strength to bring to things like that because you have an engineering company hired and I know what they should deliver. I know how I can push them to deliver what they agreed to in the contract with the city of Clifton and hold their feet to the fire. Vina Jones is who you're speaking about. TDEX Week. Really good friends with Vina. Have worked with her for years on a first name basis with her. And my connections with the folks in local programs at TDOT, TDEC, Tennessee Economic Community Development. Those are folks that I've known for anywhere from 10, 15, 20 years that I have open lines of communication with. But I would enjoy being on the other side where I could watch an engineering company and know what they're supposed to provide us and hold their feet to the fire to do that. Set them a timeline and what we expect out of them.
You have just over, or just under 4 minutes now. Do you have any other questions, or would you like to make a closing statement?
I guess my closing statement would be that I would, if chosen, this would be a challenge for me. And I really, really like challenges. I would dedicate all of my time to doing this other than after 5 and on the weekends. I do have a family, and I would certainly want to keep them first. But I am a Christian man, and I would come in here with Christian morals. I would operate things above board and to the best of my ability and as honest as possible. Like I said, I will be open, and there's a phone that goes with the city manager, and that's the phone that I would have, and then it would be turned off at 5, but my personal cell phone would be accessible by U5, you, police chief, fire chief, anyone that would need me after hours, and we'd do it that way. And I would graciously accept the challenge and would love to see the city of Clifton come ahead on some things. Been here all my life, and Clifton is, in my opinion, the jewel of Wayne County, being on the Tennessee River and having the history that it has. I think it's a beautiful town, and I would really, really like to have the opportunity to help here all that I could.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
That's it.
Thank y'all.
you're good.
Talk back to me. Where you started.
Okay, before you see the scoring, are there any questions regarding process, either what we did today or moving forward?
So are we going to have background checks done prior or after our decision?
They would be done after the decision and after negotiation with the selected candidate.
And why do you do that?
Excuse me, had my mouth full. Otherwise, the lag time for the employee, if you did the background check first,
Take that long?
you could potentially, and you could lose your selected candidate. Obviously, they're looking for a position. You don't know if they're looking for more than one. So you want to do the negotiation as quickly as possible, and the offer would be contingent upon a successful background check.
But the background check itself doesn't take that long at
I
all.
mean, the background check is quick, right?
Unless something comes up on it and you have to do a more detailed background.
Okay. My only concern is that once we make our decisions and then the background checks are done and then that strikes that one out of the applicant, as an applicant, then we're back to square one.
My recommendation, I discussed it earlier, I believe, was that you have a selected candidate and then an alternate candidate or two.
There you go.
Any other questions on process?
How do we negotiate salary?
That's up to you as a board.
Ready to go tonight.
All right.
We started high.
Bigger with them, huh? All right.
Other questions? Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Sam, and I'm gonna turn a deaf ear until I'm done with this pizza, and then I'm out of here. If you guys need anything, it's been a pleasure working with you. Feel free to give me a call, and
Nice to meet you.
I look forward to working with you guys on other projects.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Wait a minute.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so these are in order from who scored the highest overall, and then down from there, okay? So your first one was Jeff Menatra. He scored the highest with 31.66. Your second one was John Powell. He scored 29.17. Christine Duren was your third, and she scored 25.7. And Joshua Gert was the fourth, and he scored 22.49.
How do we get decimal numbers on these?
You did not average, correct? There was an average when he. I'll just show you.
Do you want me to explain that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I averaged the responses, totaled the responses, divided them by 6,
6. Okay.
and then the average was accumulated for that number that Sam just gave you.
Okay.
What was Christine? Christine's was 25.7.
Yeah, we'll go from there.
Honestly, I think they all had pretty good interviews. Menatra was ranked the highest, but he also wants 112,500 a year.
And I agree with the rankings, as far as better and worse, but one thing that I think Menatra really brings to the table is, you know, the people that he knows that are involved in the projects that we have going on, like the water plant, is Miss Dina Vera, her name, he knows her personally, they work together on projects.
I know it too.
Yeah.
And he did Christine give us a price, was she in the mid-range, that's what she said?
She said mid, yeah.
Yeah, I think she said that she could work within that range. Mr. Powell said that he could work within that range.
The only definite we got was from Jeff.
Thoughts, anybody?
I think it seemed like Mr. Menatra was pretty firm on that 112.5. I think the biggest thing that he has in his hat is, first of all, he has hands-on experience with a lot of those types of construction projects that we have going on. He knows a lot of those people. If we went with somewhere with an offer somewhere around 110, I think we'd be pretty close, because he seemed pretty firm in that. If he was able to stick around for 5 years, 8 years, anything like that, there's a little upward mobility, but not a lot.
Can I speak to that more? While y'all were getting food, I was running numbers, as he did say, around that 112, so I was trying to see about what that pay would be. If it was, really he would be, if we're going by this pay scale, it wouldn't be exact. It would be like $53.33 would be that $110,000. If you went up one more step, I believe it was be step 13 and step 14. So if you look at your grades, it'll be the very bottom one. That $54.39 would be $113,000. We were paying Doug $55, I think it was 09. So it is less than what we were paying him. But I just kind of was throwing out some numbers there for you. And I also can go run more numbers if y'all need me to.
In my opinion, Jeff's just about pricing himself out of the job. He's got a lot of talent. He knows everybody.
He does, and he's got a good job.
He's got quite a bit of demands to come along with it. Phone's off at 5 o'clock, and it's going to take $112.05 a year.
Well, if we go by this pay scale, it'd be 113.
Yeah, whatever, but the phone's off at 5 o'clock in the evening. He's a little more on the demanding side. None of the other three was in concrete on salary.
I think John Powell had the best interview.
Yeah, he did.
Without
very,
doubt.
very well.
Very articulate,
Very well
intelligent
spoken.
man.
Yes, sir.
That's why I asked, did they get the question sheet like we did? Because
And it seemed like he had one, didn't he?
yeah, he said
Yeah,
he was
very-
on it,
very
did not
good at
stutter a
public
time.
Yeah.
And he said he's also flexible with
Yeah,
that pay scale.
we know nothing about him, history-wise, no community, nothing
Right.
through word of mouth or anything though on him.
Right.
His work history did look good on his resume, but he's 6-8 hours away, and to be honest with you, I didn't have a chance to check his references. Did any of the rest of it?
Nope, I didn't.
He was very detailed in his resume, though. It was like,
You can tell he's done it before. He's not lying.
right, that's where I was going with that. Because he was
He's
beyond.
got a lot of background in law enforcement. You can tell he referenced to that quite a bit.
Right. And that's where I think he would be very much on the up and up. Somebody like Jeff Menatra,
He did.
we know the guy, and I know he's a good man, but this fella, he articulated to the
He's
point
very
where
well
you can
spoken.
tell he's
He did mention he's never led in this capacity before, though, as well. He's predominantly law enforcement
right.
and fire.
That's why I think him and Menatra are a big, heavy toss-up.
No doubt.
I didn't feel like Gert spoke well in public.
He struggled.
Duren. Not real sure about her experience.
Mm-hmm.
The advantages on all the other three besides Menatra are openness, willingness to negotiate on salary.
Well, if we would have pinned them down, it probably may have been closer than what we think
Yeah,
so.
probably.
In relations to Jeff.
Well, it sounded like I was hearing 80 to 100. I did hear that out of one of them.
That was Mr. Powell. Yeah, he said, because that's when we mentioned the low 80s to top end. He said you should felt comfortable within that range.
Mid-range, you said.
I also just now thought about this in the advertisement. I don't know if y'all had seen this. The salary range on there, which they were all referring to, was $87,464 through $106,621. So that's a big range. I don't know if they're saying they're comfortable within that range. It could be anywhere in there. So I just want to let y'all know that before you made it.
106 was our top. And he had
106 was yeah, and he said
About
112.
mid of that.
Well, what was it, 84?
$87,464.
You said 86,000?
87,000.
We just call it 87 to 106?
Yes.
Now, John also wanted a vehicle or reimbursement.
Well, he asked.
Yeah.
But they get that anyway.
A
Right?
vehicle?
Yeah.
They don't get a vehicle.
No.
They get use of a company, of
Oh, but we
a
have
truck.
one. We have one.
We don't have one now. We don't.
Use that to the water plant.
We did, yes.
We did.
Okay.
Okay.
No one touched on the airport. Did y'all notice that? No one talked about, just mentioned the vehicle, that courtesy car is what popped in my head. None of them expanded on our airport.
Well, with the airport, you know, I'm on the airport board, and as far as how it operates, it's on its totally
It's its
separate
own
board,
entity.
its very own budget and such. So it's
Yeah.
it's
A lot of
practically a
focus
separate
on river
entity
recreation.
from the city itself.
A lot of focus on industry, the river, recreation, but I did think one of them would have mentioned the airport and its role in the city.
Because they will be in control of that.
Yeah.
I do all the airport stuff as of right now. All the meetings, all the grants for the airport budget, and all of that.
Did you just calculate the median?
96.5 is mid. You know, if you want to say, if you want to make that offer.
He come in,
112.5.
yeah, he come in asking over what we advertised at.
And he told me 110 out at the college after the last city meeting.
And he also elaborated that the reason why he wanted that a little extra, whether it was in reference to
Yeah.
$2,500, was to keep that the
Benefit.
policies active.
It's coming down to just not being able to afford him.
I think he's very qualified for the job. I think he'd do a great job, but I think that's too much money.
Okay.
I do, and I concur. I think he's very proficient with the knowledge of the city. I think he can take it and run. I just don't think we can afford it. He was a little more demanding than any of the other three too. I mean, he stated up front.
I'd say he's got a good job.
Yeah.
So right now, he has already has the income of the equivalent of a 112.5 that he was requested.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that's what he said.
Right.
Well, yeah.
He told me that.
The only opportunity there is just to offer him something. If you want to bring him back in and offer him,
That's what I was going to say.
what'd you say, 96?
96.5, he would go for it.
Yeah.
Good.
That's the only thing. That or
I mean,
put a line through his
as
name.
you well know, we're gonna have to pay him,
Yeah.
you know.
It's an equal playing field, though. We haven't seen what any of them can do with it.
No, you're right.
And none of them have city manager experience.
You're right.
I feel like they, honestly, they could all do the job, just might take some of them a little longer than others to get going.
Yeah.
You have to find money.
Yeah.
125 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he'll be, I mean, I'm sure he'll be raised.
Yeah. I mean, do we
Advantage, what you go with?
shoot ourselves in the foot? And is that so?
Has to be.
Lose a potential good manager because we feel we're the chief to pay the money. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Well, what if we went in with, with the ad said we would go from a range of 87 to 87,464 to 106. It seems like we all kind of want Jeff Menatra. What if we offered him the 106? And, that's still $9,000 from our top pay. But
We need to ask Mr. Powell exactly what he expects.
Is he here?
Oh, they all left.
I'm sure he's
I
far
just-
gone, but somebody needs to make a phone call and see what he'd work for.
He said mid-range.
We
We
can
did say
make-
something about a car.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to have another administration vehicle anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was already put.
It's in that.
It was
It is
already
in the budget. I just haven't.
Yeah,
I don't-
but it was already in there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we need a truck or a Suburban, all
SUV.
training. Yeah, I don't know.
Give him a truck.
I did think about one question we didn't ask them as far as when any of them could start.
Yeah.
Because Jeff said when he was walking out, he would be more around September 1st if he were to get the job, which a lot of people are probably going to be a little bit out. I don't know when that John Powell guy could, and I'm just throwing y'all ideas. I didn't even think to ask that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real important question.
Yeah, we didn't even think about that.
Well, we talked about it, and then I think it just.
Kind of just.
Each of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. Experience, under-experienced, particular field. I don't think Garth had a good speaking engagement today, but you can tell from his conversation that he's got a lot of experience in accounting. I think Ms. Duren is under-experienced in municipal day-to-day opportunities, day-to-day business. Mr. Powell is very well-spoken in several different aspects. And Mr. Menatra is very well-spoken as well. I'm just afraid we can't afford him. The demands are high right out of the gate on him.
Right, but at the same time, we're paying for experience, and he does have a lot of municipal experience. And my other thought process is, if we were offering a gap that had a top at 106, I don't understand why he wouldn't take that amount, why he would even continue to apply.
Right.
I would say if we offered him 106,
Yeah, so that's our max.
I've been more around the 100 range on the office.
No, you won't touch.
sounds like what I think. Is everybody?
Yeah.
Negotiation.
Yeah, we'd start at 100. So, am I getting the feeling that everybody's thinking that Mr. Menatra is the first choice that we would like to have if we can afford him?
I'm not settled there yet.
I wonder if we could make an offer to all four to give us a little bit more information on where each one of them stands.
Sure can, yeah. We can offer them a set price,
Is that, any of y'all object to that?
Or at least the top two? Because that way, if one said yes and the other one said no, it's like, okay, well, here you go.
Well, that's gonna eliminate somebody right off the bat, 84 here, if you just make an offer.
Yeah.
Make an offer to all four of them, find out when they start.
Yeah.
That plays a part into it.
When they can start and how much.
And we could use the way they rank here, we could use that as how much we offer.
What now?
We can use how they rank here, is according to how much we offer each one of them. We give them an outfit of whatever, you know, and then the next one be a little lower, a little lower, a little lower.
For your median was what, 96.5, 90,
Yeah.
97?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we're just going after a low dollar because we don't want to pay top dollar, are we really doing the city justice by just going after the low salary?
We're starting with 4 people without the experience of,
I know,
Municipality.
but we know that some are more qualified than others over there. We do.
yeah.
That's why.
2 are very well
I mean, we want
spoken.
a person to take it and run with it and go and get started, or we want one that's going to live along for a year before they even get their feet on the ground.
They're not gonna limp along or we'll vote them out.
Well, then we'll be back to this square one again. We
That's
don't want
hiring and
that.
firing people.
Well, I ain't into that. We have better things to do. We got to move forward.
There's an
I'm
election
trying
year
to
every 2
do
years.
what's best for the city of Clifton, and I can't justify spending that kind of money, taxpayers' money. It ain't about what I want.
But what I would be totally against would be taking the one with the least experience just because he accepted the lowest amount of money.
Yeah, I can't agree to that.
Well, which one's got the least experience?
Well, as far as the point
My mind
system,
would
Joshua
think it-
Gert was.
Yeah, that don't mean he's got least experience though.
Well, I was kind of leaning towards Miss Duren. I made a note that, in my mind, she was the least experienced in governmental affairs, municipal.
Patrick did say pick one. If you cannot pick one, pick 2. So doing all 4, I don't.
I believe I mean, it's up to us.
Absolutely. I just was throwing that out there. That's what he had said. But y'all can pick whichever ones.
I don't think we need to open it the whole playing field, all 4 of them. I really don't. I really don't. I think it's the way to go. We know who the top 2 are. And we can get quality work out of those folks. And yes, we're gonna have to pay them, but you gotta pay to play. You know, nothing's cheap these days.
That's more than what we was paying Dunn.
I know.
No, it's not.
We were paying him at close to the 115 mark, right?
Yeah, he was making 55 something. 55.
Okay. 5509.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah, he was just under the top pay of 115, 398.
Really, the weighted question for me is when they can start and how much. I mean,
Well, we do need to know when they can start, for sure.
Can we not call them up and ask them?
You think it's possible to contact them?
We
I was gonna say, they
can.
got a cell phone, can call
Yeah,
me.
we can. Patrick was going to do all of the calling, so whatever y'all decided today is what he was going to contact them to keep me out
Then
of
we're gonna
the.
have to meet again.
Might call in, then, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, we need to know that.
Do what?
But
Yeah, call Patrick and see if he can call him right now.
these the salaries and the start date should have been in the list of questions he gave us, I think.
See if I can go. Keep
Well,
this wrong.
the only question is Jeff, and he told us what it would take to get it.
And I'm not gonna pay that much. That's my personal opinion. I think that's too much money.
Right. But then at the same time, my thought process is like I said a while ago, if he knew the top dollar was 106, I'm pretty sure that we can negotiate down to that at least.
Maybe.
Then we got to turn around and
Yeah, that
give
would be-
another raise.
Do what?
And in a year, you gotta give another raise.
Everybody's gonna get a raise for a year.
Right.
That's life. That's the way it works.
We've got a lot of years before we get up to the 115 mark.
And I took it in at 65, he was thinking about retiring.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, I took
He-
that from him 5 years and he
5
retired.
to 8 years, right?
Yeah.
That's about the life of the city manager and
Right.
what do you say, 60?
He's
He told
60,
you.
just turned 60 and goes.
Well, I think that we ought to have a conversation, or at least inquire to Jeff and John. Two questions, one being when can you start, number two, what's your bottom salary requirement?
But we can't call it.
with no vehicle.
We can't call it.
What's it gonna
So
take?
we're gonna have to be looking
Yeah, which we don't have one yet, there's one in the budget.
Yeah, but I think he was talking about running drive.
Well, that's what they've all got here, they've all got one. Everybody drives one home.
Yeah, but some of them's a necessity.
Okay.
Like I said, the city manager's a necessity, it's like 30, 40 miles every day.
Okay, you cannot ask the candidate, there has to be a vote of who your top, if it's not one, it has to be at least two, or you have to have two, you can't do more than two. When you call, you can ask them when their start date's gonna be, I can go call them and ask them the start date, but we cannot start negotiating, hey, would you take, like if y'all said, would you take this 106? You can't do that until you've already made the board's already voted, hey, this is our top candidate, this is our second candidate. Then you can say, oh, I want to proceed with negotiating with them. We'll see if he didn't accept it, if y'all were going to go with Jeff and he didn't accept it, then you could be like, okay, well, y'all are not willing to pay that much, you could go to your next candidate. That's just kind of how you have to go.
So it's 2 out of the 4.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
But I am allowed to call and go see when they are allowed to start if y'all want me to go ahead and do that. Okay.
So once you've done that, let's decide what we want to offer our top two picks.
Well, it was advertised that 106 was gonna be the top.
Let's, first of all, I guess we need to decide who our top two picks are.
I've got Powell and Gert.
Calling who?
John Powell and Josh Gert. Eliminating Miss Duren, under experienced, and Menatra for too high. Barring the question when they can start and how much. I'm just afraid Miss Duren doesn't have the experience.
Well, like I say, we don't know the outcome of any of them. She may be the crackerjack of them all.
She may be,
You know, you don't know.
I don't.
I think the ones that
It's a
interviewed
toss-up.
the best were Mr. Powell and Mr. Menatra as far as
Yeah.
how they interviewed,
It-
how they're, you know,
Public speaking,
how they
yeah.
think, not just public speaking, how they handle themselves in a Q&A public situation, the answers that they gave kind of tells you a little bit about their abilities and how they would handle certain situations.
And why would you,
They just can't
why
afford
would you want to
Menatra.
put Josh at the top of the rank when he's at the lowest of the score?
Yeah. I went with Powell and Gert because Miss Duren's under experience and Menatra being too high. Had to choose between two. Miss Duren and Gert. Somewhere in my second, third choice. Just because I don't feel like we can negotiate with Jeff on his demands.
No, he's never gonna take it. I don't think he'll take 106.
He's got a good job. He's very well experienced. And who's to say that they're not going to offer him more to stay?
Right.
If-
And as far as a good job, and
He told me he was making 105. And he told me a month ago it'd take 110 for him to come here. Now we're at 112.5. And if he takes that offer to his current employer, who's to say that they can't come up with that much more just for him to stay there and not have to put up with this headache here? Because you know it's not nearly the headache with Collier Engineering. Mr. Marsh and I talked on the phone about this last week. Menatra has the least amount of diplomas. He's done real well for himself.
I think Mr. Powell would be a bargain at 96.5
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he's very well spoken.
in a heartbeat.
Yeah, he had it going on.
Straight out the gate.
Yeah. So much so that I thought he had a copy of the same question list that we had.
Yeah.
I mean, he was there.
That was weird.
Yeah.
He does some research.
Yep, that's what you do.
Well, it just leaves him with a couple of questions. When can you start? How much?
Well, we're not supposed to ask him how much. That's what she just told us.
I think he was just making a statement.
Well, make an
But we
offer.
could make him an offer.
Yeah.
Make him an
When
offer.
when can you start and would you accept this amount of money?
Yeah, just reword it different. How much money you gonna want in your pocket?
What, Tammy?
Are we looking at like a month? I mean,
Well, that's what they're gonna tell us, what their time out is.
I mean, I guess I'm saying if somebody says, hey, 2-3 months before I can get there,
Right. And somebody like Mr. Powell,
It may take him a while to relocate.
I would say, he's the only one that would really have to relocate, and I would say 60 days would be fair.
so 2 months.
Yeah.
Sorry. Both of them, Jeff would be September 1st. John Powell said that his would be sometime in September as well, but he would also have to have some leniency because he lives, he drove all the way up here. As far as when he does move completely, he's going to have time off to make that move and complete that.
Of course.
Actually, so.
So, kind of the same time frames, I guess, but I don't know how long that moving process is going to take.
We need to vote on our top pick and our backup.
Yeah.
We need to,
We'll do a roll call vote for that.
Well,
if anybody will make a motion to top pick.
I would make a motion that Mr. Powell would be top pick with a offer of the median price of about 96.5. Like I said, with him, I think that would be a bargain. And the reason behind that motion, I feel like I need to justify that. Mr. Menatra has drawn a pretty hard line on, availability during the regular week and the amount that he would like to have. Plus, I don't feel bad about suggesting Mr. Powell because Mr. Menatra already has a really good job making really good money.
Who does?
Mr.
Yeah.
Powell.
Mr. Menatra
Okay.
has a really good job making
Okay.
really good money already. He's already making.
I've got a motion,
I second it.
for John Powell, 96,000. And we've got a second. Roll call it.
Commissioner Letson,
Yes.
Commissioner Francis,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Prince,
Yes.
Mayor Staggs.
Yes. John Powell will be our number one pick.
So as far as our number 2 pick and an offer,
It's gonna make, I would like the offer to be less than this guy.
$90.
Who are we talking about?
Any of them?
Yeah, the experience is about the same.
So we're not gonna offer to Jeff at all?
We only offered two, and he come in at 125, and it said,
Yeah, well, that
it said on the
was-
application 106.
No, just throw out their figure. At least we could.
Gert or Duren, either one.
Anybody make a motion for it?
I'll make a motion to give Jeff an offer.
Offer Jeff and
I'll
offer
second
that.
that.
That's what? What you
Our
want?
max was 106.
That's what you want
What was advertised?
Right. Then I'm
Yes,
asking.
sir.
All right, I've got a motion and a second for Jeff Menatra at 106. Roll call.
Commissioner Letson,
Yes.
Commissioner Francis,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
No.
Vice Mayor Prince,
No.
Mayor Staggs.
No. Then
What's next?
And if we
Offer one
need
of
that
the-
second
the
person, since he was
295.
shot down, as far as,
And my reasoning for the decision was my note of September 1st on the start date, if you want reasoning behind that.
sir, for
For
what?
my no vote on Jeff Menatra. The start date,
Why was
What
that
was
a problem?
They got to do anything.
that was my reasoning for voting no on Jeff Menatra.
Well, Powell can't start until September either. And you voted.
And I voted for it. Find the logic.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
he lives in Florida. So now I need a motion to nominate one of the other.
Well, then I would nominate Ms. Duren at 87,464.
84 what?
Mrs. Duren at the starting rate of 87,464. Just it's a good pay based on her experience level.
Is it 87?
In my opinion, sir.
37,000.
87,000.
Well, the bottom pay at 87,464.
87,464, and I'll say.
Yes.
Just want to say 87,500.
Yeah, 85.
So I've got a motion for Christine Duren at 87.5, and I have a second. Roll call.
Commissioner Letson,
Yes.
Commissioner Francis,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Prince.
Yes.
Mayor Staggs.
Yes.
Is there anything else that needs to be discussed before I turn this off?
I don't think so. Anybody got anything?
No, so the
I'll
process
have-
from this point is,
I will call Patrick. He will, because he's been in contact with them prior. He will contact them, say, hey, they've made an offer. You know, you were the first chosen candidate, and then he'll let me know how that goes. I will relay that back to y'all. I'll probably do it before the end of the weekly report. I'm not going to do it in the weekly report. I'll do it as soon as he lets me know something. That way, y'all are informed on it. So,
Now, we're
Okay.
offering him that, but that's not offering him a vehicle or nothing like
Correct.
that right
Just
now.
96,000.
Okay,
right.
We eventually have a vehicle that he can drive around town, so.
but not to drive home.
No.
And meanwhile, in a situation like that, if they have to use their personal vehicle
Well,
for,
they have like a gas card, or they can use gas, I mean,
There's
pay
a
gas.
SUV that is one plan.
let me just share.
Very rarely gets wrong.
yeah, and there's also, if somebody had to use a personal vehicle, there's also allowances that you can, mileage allowances you can turn in.
What was that exact pay? Because I walked out as far as what y'all are offering, John.
96.5.
96.
Well, was it 96?
Well,
My
At
bad.
the end of the day, we don't have to go by the pay schedule right here at all.
No, that didn't.
No,
It's
we
very,
don't
it's
know.
very, very, okay.
So y'all went in the range of you went in the middle, is how y'all got that, right? Okay.
Right.
Are we gonna set a time like for him to be here? I mean, you said 60 days to be here and start work.
Yeah, and I'm sure,
It's
you
a
know,
long way off. We
you
can
know,
be flexible with that, I
yeah,
think.
right. He'll be able to come here and, you know, rent an apartment or something like that until he can get moved fully. That's how it generally works, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but if we say October, if he says October, November, I mean,
Well,
He said sometime in September.
He did, and he did say that he has a daughter that lives in Birmingham, so that's who he actually stayed with this time. So he was like, I could drive back and forth, so if he has to, but all right, everybody good?
Anybody got anything else?
No, sir, I'm good.
Please adjourn.